Chapter 211 Buying a cotton-padded coat. Lu Mingui had thought about this matter. How could she let others make sacrifices for nothing? Since Lu Yunxi likes Tu Antuan and Yuan Yuan, and the two children often grin at Lu Yunxi, it means that they are destined to be together. It would be better to establish a godparent relationship, so that when the child is older, at least he can kowtow to Lu Yunxi during holidays. But Lu Yunxi almost choked on his saliva. A godparent? How can I get my two little devils to recognize me as their godmother? How can that be allowed? These two are real little devils. They're practically defying the natural order. She quickly refused and expressed her loyalty. Grandma, I just simply like children. Let's forget about the idea of having a godmother. But don't worry, whether I acknowledge them as relatives or not, I like them very much and will take good care of them. Then she looked at the two little ones in the stroller. They were sleeping soundly now because they were tired from playing. She thought to herself, my little darlings, it's not that I want to take advantage of you, it's all what your grandmother said. He then urged Lu Mingui, you should go take a shower and get some rest. Although our ancestor is now wearing modern clothes, you can still see that his hair is messy, his face is covered with a layer of dust, and his eyes and brows show an unconcealable weariness. Fleeing from famine, you can imagine how bitter it is. How could you expect to be clean and safe? Lu Mingui was indeed tired, so she didn't bring up the matter of becoming godparents again and went into the bathroom. Actually, her favorite place in the whole house was the bathroom. Clean, bright, and tidy. Most importantly, there is hot water. Hot water flows out as soon as you turn on the tap, which is very convenient. Unlike in the Ming Dynasty, where washing one's body was so troublesome, requiring boiling water, carrying it into the house, and then pouring it into a wooden basin before one could begin washing. But usually, the water gets cold before you've finished washing. In winter, one dares not wash too much, lest one catch a cold, which could be fatal. Later, a drought struck, and people had no water to drink, let alone to wash themselves. But it's different here. Taking a bath is as convenient as washing your hands. Hot water washes over you, making you feel warm and comfortable. Besides the convenience of using water, there is also a slippery liquid called shower gel for washing the body. You only need to squeeze it onto a ball of netting to make foam. After washing, your body feels slippery, unlike soap, which leaves your body dry and itchy. If you don't like using shower gel, you can use bar soap. In short, it is extremely convenient. Lu Mingui felt happy when she took her first bath, and she still feels that way now. After taking a hot shower and drying off with a large towel, I put on some light clothes. This is a floral pajama set, bought at the market. It's very comfortable to wear to bed. Lu Mingui felt the only drawback was that it was a bit short, exposing the arms and calves. Fortunately, she has adapted much better now and is no longer as afraid to show her face as she would cover her arm. When Lu Yunxi saw her come out, she urged her to go and rest, while she went to look after the two children. To ensure Lu Mingui could get a good night's sleep, she even pushed both strollers into the living room and placed them next to the sofa. This time, Lu Mingui didn't stand on ceremony with her and quickly went back to her room and crawled under the covers. The soft, smooth silk quilt covered her body, and warmth and drowsiness came over her at the same time, and she fell into a deep sleep. When she woke up again, she found Lu Yunxi asleep on the sofa, while Tu Antuan and Yuan Yuan seemed to have already drunk their milk powder and were still sleeping soundly. Since that's the case, she doesn't need to take the child out to be breastfed by Shen Juya. It also allows the daughter-in-law to get a full night's sleep. After thinking for a moment, Lu Mingui changed her clothes and went to the vegetable market. Anyway, it's convenient, just push the door open. I bought this outfit from the curly-haired woman after the weather got cold. It's a thick long-sleeved shirt and trousers. Walking through the market now, it still felt a bit colder than usual. Looking around, I saw that many older people were already wearing thick cotton-padded coats. Lu Mingui felt a bit cold and thought she should go upstairs to buy a coat first. Although she can buy it on her phone, she still finds it inconvenient. She heard that if you buy clothes online and they don't fit, you can return them. But she didn't quite understand how to return them, so she simply didn't buy anything. When we got to the second floor, we saw that the curly-haired woman's shop had indeed changed to a new batch of clothes. She remained enthusiastic. Auntie's here, shouldn't you be buying a down jacket? The curly-haired woman finally understood. This old lady was very frugal. She had only bought 3 sets of clothes from her house in the past year. This is my 4th time here. I guess I'm here to buy winter clothes. Lu Mingui greeted her with a smile, then touched the cotton-padded coat the curly-haired woman had mentioned. It was so soft. Is this a cotton-padded jacket? How much does it cost? The woman with curly hair stopped asking for a price. After all, haggling back and forth was exhausting. She said, yes, they are cotton-padded jackets. This row is all 150 yuan apiece, the price is fair. He added, this time, we really didn't make any money. I'll take it off and let you try it, then you'll know, you get what you pay for. Without saying a word, he took the cotton-padded coat off the hanger and neatly put it on Lu Mingui. Lu Mingui immediately felt a warmth spread through her body, and her shoulders, which had been shivering from the cold, relaxed. Hey, this coat is really nice. The curly-haired woman continued, the fabric, the workmanship, the thickness, it's definitely worth the price. If you don't like that, we also have down jackets over there, which are lighter. She quickened her pace, grabbed another down jacket, and handed it over. How about this one? This is a long style. If you are tall enough, it will reach your calves, and your legs won't be cold. The fabric is waterproof, so if it gets dirty, you can just wipe it clean with a damp towel. Black is the most versatile color, and it even comes with a hood. It's made of raccoon fur, so it's completely windproof when you wear it. After hearing how good her words were, Lu Mingui took off her cotton-padded coat and tried on the down jacket. It was indeed much lighter and warmer. How much does this feather jacket cost? Curly-haired woman, when did she say it was a feathered outfit? How about calling it a down jacket? She didn't correct him directly, but emphasized again, this down jacket is made of white duck down, so it's a bit more expensive. It costs 380 yuan, but if you really want it, give me 350. Anyway, whether it's a cotton-padded jacket or a down jacket, these are already at the lowest price. Lu Mingui was torn between the two options. In terms of warmth, down jackets are naturally warmer, but they cost 200 yuan more. After thinking about it again, I figured I wouldn't have much time to come to the market anyway, so I might as well just buy a cotton-padded coat. The curly-haired woman looked at her pants again and tried to sell her product. Aren't your legs cold? Not wearing long johns? Come on, take a look at my fleece-lined thermal underwear. It's so warm to wear right next to the skin. The woman pulled her a few more steps into the store. Look, these are all sets of thermal underwear, lined with fleece, guaranteed to keep you warm. How about this purple one? She opened one set and handed it to Lu Mingui to look at. Lu Mingui took it and saw that the clothes were extremely small and had a layer of soft down inside. She expressed her doubts. It feels comfortable to the touch, but is it really that small to wear? The curly-haired woman confidently stretched her thermal underwear open with both hands. Look, it's super stretchy. Don't even mention how thin you are, even someone who weighs 200 pounds could wear this. Chapter 212 Mutton. Lu Mingui didn't believe it, she thought it was an exaggeration. 200 pounds? Does that mean even that chubby Shu Yang can wear it? That's definitely not possible, the curly-haired woman asked. How about it, ma'am? Want to buy one? It's so warm to wear next to the skin, and the fine fleece is definitely worth it. I'll only charge you the cost price for this set, 40 yuan. Lu Mingui had initially considered buying it and was examining it closely when she heard the price, but she quickly put it down. Too expensive, too expensive. That thick coat costs 150 yuan, but this thin and small garment costs 40 yuan. The curly-haired woman was getting anxious. She had already convinced him, so why was he refusing to buy it now? She hardened her heart and said, how about this, you take 2 sets, and I'll give you 70 yuan. That works out to only 35 yuan a set, isn't that a great deal? Lu Mingui's eyes lit up. What if I want 5 sets? 2 sets can save you 10 yuan, so 5 sets should save you even more. She was already somewhat tempted, and then she thought that her sister-in-law, Wang, was old and always afraid of the cold, so she might as well buy her a set as well. Since we've already bought them, let's buy them for our daughter, daughter-in-law, and niece-in-law as well. Besides, she had just seen it, and although these long underwear looked strange, they felt really comfortable to the touch. Moreover, there was nothing on it that couldn't be taken to the Ming Dynasty. Wearing it close to the skin will prevent outsiders from noticing. Unexpectedly, the curly-haired woman repeatedly begged for mercy, saying that this price was already the lowest possible. Oh my, ma'am, even if you bought the whole shop, you couldn't lower the price any further. If you really want to buy 5 sets, I'll give you a few more pairs of socks as a gift. Lu Mingui suddenly remembered that there was a pair of socks in the White House. They were a free gift with the purchase of shoes. Because it looked extremely narrow, it was left unused and never passed through. Before she could hesitate, the curly-haired woman picked out 5 sets of thermal underwear. "Auntie, I'll give you 5 sets, each in a different color." "What about the size? Should we choose the small size for everything?" Lu Mingui thought for a moment. None of the women in her family were fat, mainly because they used to not have enough to eat, so they couldn't gain weight even if they wanted to. He nodded and said, "Okay, just take whatever is my size." In the end, I paid 325 yuan including the cotton-padded coat. The curly-haired woman really did give me 5 pairs of socks, which felt quite thick. Lu Mingui went to buy pork while still wearing her cotton-padded coat. Chen Xin smiled and said, "Aunt Lu, it's been a while since you've come. Does that mean your family has slaughtered a pig and now they won't come over here anymore?" Lu Mingui was taken aback at first, then realized that she had told Chen Xin that she wanted to buy the cartridge flamethrower because the village was going to slaughter a pig. She smiled to cover it up and said, "Yes, we've run out of meat at home, so I'm buying some more today. Let's buy some pork belly." Chen Xin then went to cut the pork for her, and Lu Mingui said, "Cut it into large chunks, the kind used for braised pork belly." Then, out of curiosity, he asked, "Why has the butcher changed hands?" There was originally a man sitting in the pork stall, looking at his phone, but now it seems to be a father and son working there. Chen Xin laughed and said, "It's more than just changing the people. They've not only changed the people, but they've also switched to selling mutton. It turns out that the person couldn't make a living anymore, the pork was rotten every day and he still couldn't sell it. She has a bad temper and is always arguing with customers, last time they almost came to blows." Lu Mingui was astonished. Although she didn't understand business, she knew that business wasn't done this way. "Isn't this just yellow?" The father and son at the next stall, surnamed Feng, were busy at work when they overheard the conversation. Father Feng Cheng hurriedly began to enthusiastically promote the product. "Big sister, come and take a look at the mutton. The sheep were slaughtered fresh this morning. They are from Tang County, and the meat is of good quality. Moreover, mutton soup is the most delicious in winter. If you drink it a few times, your hands and feet will not be cold. If you don't like mutton soup, we can cut it into pieces and grill it into mutton skewers for you. You can also cut it into rolls and eat it in hot pot." His son immediately nodded in agreement. "Auntie, the lamb in our house is the freshest. It tastes only of the fresh flavor of mutton, with absolutely no gamey smell. You'll know once you've tried it." Lu Mingui secretly swallowed as he listened to him. "Raw mutton, oh, that's really delicious." The thinly sliced mutton is placed into the boiling copper pot, and with just a few shakes, it is cooked through. Wealthy families would use several seasonings, such as soy sauce, wine, and Sichuan peppercorns, to make a dipping sauce. For ordinary families, being able to eat meat is a luxury, and they don't have many seasonings. At this time, just a little soy sauce is enough to make it taste delicious. She has only eaten it once in her life, which was 20 years ago. That delicious taste was truly unforgettable. However, eating hot pot while fleeing famine is not very realistic. Buying some mutton to make soup would be more practical. "I'll buy it to nourish my chrysanthemum leaves. I haven't had any soup or broth these past few days, so I need to replenish them." Lu Mingui then asked, "How much is the mutton per pound?" The young man quickly replied, "The price varies depending on the part of the body being treated. The lamb leg is 36 yuan per catty, the lamb spine is 40 yuan, and the lamb chuck is 42 yuan. If you're making soup, then choose the shank, it will make the soup white and flavorful." Lu Mingui was very tempted. It was a bit expensive, but she hadn't eaten it in a long time. In addition, since they needed to eat something hot to replenish their strength while fleeing famine on the road, they nodded and said, "Weigh some." Finally, I bought 3 more kilograms of lamb leg, rounded down, and spent 105 yuan. Although it was only a 3 yuan discount, they gave us 2 extra white radishes. Mr. Feng said that white radish is cold in nature, and stewing it with hot mutton can neutralize it and make the mutton soup taste more delicious. After buying all these things, Lu Mingui hurriedly returned home, first to Guanlin residence. Lu Yunxi was playing with the child and was not surprised to see Lu Mingui appear, nor did she ask anything. She simply said, "You went to buy groceries. What's this?" Lu Mingui then said, "I bought a few pounds of pork belly and some lamb legs. Let's make some mutton soup and braised pork. Look, this mutton is great, very fresh, and they even cut it up for us. I'll just do it right away. Lu Yunxi couldn't cook, but after looking at the mutton and seeing that it looked good, she could only nod repeatedly. What can I do? Lu Mingui smiled and said, no need, the child must be tired too. Go take a break, I can manage on my own. No sooner had Lu Yunxi left the kitchen than Lu Mingui looked left and right, then looked up in bewilderment and poked her head out, looking very embarrassed. Yunxi, why can't I light this fire? Chapter 213 Eating. Lu Mingui studied it for a while and found that the stove was bare. There was neither charcoal nor firewood, only 2 round iron rings and 2 knobs. She tried them, but they didn't work. Upon hearing this, Lu Yunxi rushed into the kitchen and taught the old lady how to use various kitchen utensils. She originally wanted to hire a nanny, but she was afraid that outsiders would discover the Lu family's secret, so she had no choice but to do everything herself. This is called a gas stove. You need to turn on the gas valve first, and then turn the knob to turn on the flame. If this gas leaks, it is harmful to people, so you must turn off the valve when you are not using it. Lu Mingui then understood why the fire couldn't be turned on. There was a valve. I was a little confused when I heard that this was a gas-fired appliance, but I did remember to turn off the gas and valve in time. Lu Yunxi added, and this knob on the gas stove can adjust the flame size. Turning it all the way down will make the flame the smallest. Twist it to the middle, and the fire will be at its highest. She demonstrated, and with a click, a blue flame shot out, indeed growing larger and smaller with the movement, which was very convenient. Lu Mingui listened attentively like a primary school student, almost taking notes in a small notebook. He kept thinking to himself, wow, this fire is so convenient. With a gentle twist, it can be made big or small. There's no need to use a bellows or close the damper. By the way, when you're cooking, you should turn on the range hood. The cooking fumes will be absorbed, otherwise the whole room will be full of fumes. However, you don't need to turn it on, the range hood is automatically activated. Lu Mingui then looked at the range hood. Could it release the smoke even without a chimney? Or is it automatic? Seeing her serious expression, Lu Yunxi knew that the old ancestor was studying hard again, and couldn't help but chuckle to herself. Grandma, let me lend you a hand, since the babies are all asleep anyway. What should we cook first? Mutton soup. I'll cook the rice in the rice cooker first. Lu Mingui came to her senses and saw Lu Yunxi open a cabinet in the kitchen and pull out a rectangular box. This is a rice bucket, specifically for storing rice. As Lu Yunxi spoke, she pressed the button twice on the top, and the sound of rice falling was heard. Then he pulled out a box that looked like a drawer, which was already more than half full of white rice. This should be enough for 4 or 5 people. According to the instructions, 2 presses are enough for 4 to 5 people. Let me teach you how to use a rice cooker. After this process, Lu Mingui had a general understanding of how to use kitchen appliances, including dishwashers, rice cookers, microwave ovens, and ovens. Putting everything else aside, she smiled as soon as she learned what a dishwasher was for. Using a machine to wash dishes. Isn't that something you can easily do? Lu Yunxi shook her head. Washing dishes is the worst, they're all greasy. Luckily, we have a dishwasher. This frees up our hands. Wouldn't it be great to use that time to do something else? Then, as if remembering something, she said, I saw you just took a shower and then washed your clothes as well. Actually, you don't need to work so hard. We have a washing machine at home. Come on, I'll teach you how to use the washing machine. The washing machine we bought has a dryer, so you can wear it right after washing and drying. Oh, right, I also bought a baby washing machine for Tuantuan and Yuan. Adult and children's clothes need to be washed separately. Lu Mingui was completely bewildered. There are just too many machines at home, this one and that one. If I really can't remember it all at once, should I actually take out paper and write it down? She said, maybe I should make the mutton soup first. The mutton was soaked in water after being bought to remove the blood. Once the blood is removed, the mutton soup will not have a gamey smell. Then blanch the mutton in cold water, skim off the foam, and then take the mutton out and wash it with warm water. Lu Yunxi watched from the side, reminding Lu Mingui where everything in the kitchen was placed. For example, the casserole dish is on the second shelf of the cabinet, while the spice packet for stewing meat is in the drawer. Other commonly used items such as oil, salt, soy sauce, vinegar, scallions, ginger, and garlic are placed on the shelf. The gas stove was turned up to its highest setting, the flames licking the bottom of the casserole, and steam slowly rose from it, the mutton soup bubbling away. The range hood roared to life, sucking in all the smoke. Lu Mingui tilted her head and looked, only to see that all the smoke had been inhaled and had not been expelled anywhere. Behind her, Lu Yunxi took a deep breath. It smells so good. It's still early, Lu Mingui said with a smile as she put the lid on the casserole. This aroma is just from the spices, the real flavor of the mutton hasn't come out yet. She had just looked at the spice packet, which contained angelica, cardamom, and some other ingredients she didn't recognize. However, the ingredient list contains several different ingredients. That's really complete. Good lamb doesn't actually need so many spices, but since we have them, let's give it a try. Then look at that clay pot, it's really beautiful. It's a delicate white clay pot with orchids painted on it. When she arrived in Suzhou, she wanted to buy one too, since the clay pot at home had been left to her second brother. Lamb needs to be stewed for a long time. While she was at it, Lu Mingui started making braised pork on another stove. Wash the pork belly 3 layers of fat and lean meat and blanch it. Then, pour a small amount of oil into a pot and slowly stir-fry the pork to render the fat. Add scallions, ginger, and other spices, and finally pour in light soy sauce and dark soy sauce. Stir-fry quickly. The aroma spread quickly. Lu Mingui then poured in hot water, turned down the heat, and began to simmer it slowly. The kitchen was filled with the complex aroma of meat, making one's mouth water. Lu Yunxi swallowed hard. The aroma alone made her mouth water. Today, she finally had the chance to taste her ancestors' cooking. Braised pork needs to be stewed for more than half an hour, which is about an hour in this case. Lamb soup takes a little longer to cook. Just then, Tu Antoine and Yuan woke up again. That's how it is with the two kids, once one wakes up, the other will soon follow. Both children started crying at the same time. Fortunately, Lu Yunxi was there, and the two of them changed the baby's diaper together and made formula to feed him. By the time I finished, the braised pork pot was ready. Lu Mingui first served the braised pork, and seeing that there were no vegetables, she went to the White House and took a large cabbage that she had bought earlier, and made a stir-fried cabbage dish. The two then washed their hands and ate. A pot of mutton soup, a bowl of braised pork, a plate of stir-fried cabbage, and 2 bowls of steaming rice. White radish was added to the mutton soup, and Lu Yunxi also sprinkled in a few goji berries, which immediately improved its appearance. The braised pork belly has a bright red color, a thick sauce, and is garnished with a few bright green scallions, making it look, smell, and taste delicious. Lu Yunxi hadn't eaten braised pork for many years in order to maintain her health, but today she couldn't put down her chopsticks. She exclaimed, "It's delicious. Grandma, no wonder they always miss the dumplings you made. So it's this delicious." She picked up another piece of cabbage, took a bite, and her eyes lit up even more. How can you even stir-fry cabbage so deliciously? It seems like it only had salt added, yet it's sweet, crisp, tender, and incredibly flavorful. In Lu Yunxi's mind, Chinese cabbage was the most bland vegetable, and she never expected that her ancestors had such good skills. Chapter 214 Mutton Soup. Lu Mingui was quite embarrassed by her astonishment. Where can I find something this delicious? Maybe it's because I'm used to the food. It just seems so ordinary. But everyone who tried it said it was delicious. I used to think they were just being polite, but later I found out that everyone genuinely thought it was delicious. Whether it was family members or Lu Yunxi and Li Ziyan, everyone praised it. This puzzled Lu Mingui. Could it be because of the White House again? If it can keep vegetables or meat from wilting or spoiling, can it also make things taste better? Isn't it even more powerful than MSG in chicken bouillon? Lu Mingui wanted to laugh to herself, but if that were really the case, it would be no wonder that people who used to buy wild vegetables still kept thinking about it. Xu Yang's farm is also doing very well now, and it is said that he will soon be able to recoup his investment and start receiving dividends. She then thought that finding out the truth about this matter was quite simple. Take a cabbage from the White House, then buy another one from the market, stir-fry 2 dishes of each, and you'll probably be able to taste the difference. But this matter wasn't urgent. After finishing her meal, she wanted to go back and check on things first. I reckon it should be dawn over there. As dawn broke, the air was filled with the coolness of early morning. The adults had already gotten up and were calling the children to get up. Well, not exactly in bed, but anyway, it was time to wake them up. Wang looked around and asked curiously, "Xiao Chu, where's your mother?" "I haven't seen her," Song Xiaoqiu said calmly. "Auntie, my mother went there this morning and will be back in a little while." She knew, of course, that her mother had gone to That place, again, but her aunt was unaware of this. This matter must be kept secret. Xinghua muttered, it's so cold. But my aunt got up early. She doesn't know anyone here. Where is she going? Why don't we go look for it? The Song family members all covered for her, saying, it's all right, mother will be back soon. Yes, there's no need to look for it. Fearing that someone else might go first, Song Xiaodong simply said, how about I go instead? Just then, Lu Mingui emerged from behind the woods carrying a pottery jar and called out, I'm back. Xiaodong, come quickly and help your mother catch it. Song Xiaodong stepped forward and whispered to his mother, my cousin-in-law was asking why you were nowhere to be seen so early in the morning. Lu Mingui gave him a reassuring look before saying, on my way to the village just now, it was such a coincidence that we ran into a sheep slaughterhouse. I bought some mutton soup from someone, so we don't have to eat plain flatbread this morning. The words, mutton soup, immediately stimulated everyone's taste buds, and even the children who were drowsy rubbed their eyes and looked over. Lu Yongkong couldn't believe it. Lamb soup. There's actually lamb soup. Who would slaughter a sheep when it's neither a festival nor a holiday? His father, however, knew to speak up for Lu Mingui. Is it wrong for people to want to kill a sheep? Why should we interfere with others killing their own sheep? Lu Mingui chuckled inwardly, then told Song Xiaodong to place the casserole on a stable spot and lift the lid to show everyone. Look, the mutton soup is snow white, and there's not only soup, but also a lot of meat. Lu Yongkong felt sorry for his aunt. Aunt, how much money will this cost? We can just eat some rye cakes. You actually managed to swallow that, Lu Mingui said without mincing words. Look at these kids, every time they eat rye cakes, they stretch their necks for miles. Besides, this mutton soup warms the body and replenishes energy. We're heading on a journey to live a good life, so we can't afford to get exhausted halfway through. Otherwise, what would be the point of her leaving a year early? Xinghua quickly smoothed things over. Auntie is right. With mutton soup, who would drink cold water and eat dry bread? She thought her husband was a bit silly. His sister-in-law had already bought the mutton soup, yet he still said those things. Why not just eat it? Lu Mingui added, hurry up and start a fire to bake the flatbread. We'll set off after breakfast. The campfire hadn't completely died down by night, so we gathered some dry branches and added them in, and the fire blazed up again. Wang's baked flatbread, and Lu Mingui brought out bowls and served each person a bowl of mutton soup. Although there were many people, a large pot of mutton soup was enough for everyone to have a bowl. The aroma of mutton soup filled the air, and the steam rose onto everyone's faces. Although the children were very tempted, they obediently held their bowls and did not drink first. Rye bread, originally as hard as a rock, is baked over a fire and releases the aroma of wheat. The surface becomes charred and fragrant, but when broken open, it is soft and delicious. The adults stuffed the softer pancakes into the children's hands and urged, eat quickly while they're still warm. Only then did the children carefully hold their bowls, take a sip of soup, and nibble on a piece of bread. Lu Mingui had already eaten a meal in the house, and now she only took the smallest bowl of mutton soup and slowly sipped it. The snow-white mutton soup glides down your throat, rich and mellow, with a hint of sweetness from the white radish on your tongue. The mutton had already been stewed until tender and soft, rich but not greasy, filling the mouth along with the mutton soup, so fragrant that it made one feel dizzy. One bite and my whole body felt warm. Lu Mingui heard Song Xiaodong beside her say, it smells so good. The mutton is delicious. The rest of the people buried themselves in their food. Lu Wenli first drank a few sips of soup, then broke the flatbread into pieces and soaked it in the soup before eating. Seeing this, Wang teased, you certainly know how to eat. You should try it too. Lu Wenli didn't mind his wife's teasing and encouraged her to eat it this way. This way, the pancakes absorb the soup and become soft and tender, making them easy to chew and delicious. It tastes even better than meat. The others followed suit, but Song Xiaodong disagreed. Isn't a crispy pancake more fragrant? How can it taste good if it's soaked in soup? Lu Wenli then said, your uncle has bad teeth, how can he compare to you? When we were young, who didn't like gnawing on the hard, crunchy things? Now we're old. He took another big gulp of mutton soup, saying, this is so delicious. Delicious. I've never had such delicious mutton soup before. The bones were stewed until they were soft and tender. This family probably stewed them all night, right? Lu Mingui quickly said, don't chew the bones, leave them for Xiao Huang to eat. The little yellow dog was only a few months old. On the road, sometimes it rode in a mule cart, and sometimes it ran alongside it. Song Xiaodong liked it very much, and sometimes he would put it in his basket and carry it on his back, since it didn't matter if it was a little heavier. Right now, Little Yellow is wagging its tail and lying to the side, drooling. But the little dog was extremely restrained. No matter how greedy it was, it wouldn't try to steal the food. It wasn't until Song Xiaodong threw it a bone that it picked it up and lay down to gnaw on it. Chapter 215 In. The family praised the little yellow dog for being sensible, and Song Xiaodong felt proud of it. He stroked Little Yellow's head, and Little Yellow picked up the lamb bone and placed it in his palm, while looking at him expectantly. Song Xiaodong couldn't help but roll her eyes. I'm not eating it, you eat it yourself. It's not possessive of its food, but this is way too unprotective. He threw the bone a little further away, and Little Yellow quickly pounced on it and started gnawing on it again. The children all laughed when they saw this. Man asked, Uncle, does Xiao Huang want to feed you bones? Song Xiaodong blushed and quickly changed the subject. It's a pity that Xiao Huang is too young, otherwise he could keep watch for us at night. Lu Yongkong quickly shook his head. Even if the dog were a little bigger, we still can't be careless along the way, let alone when it's still so small. It's reassuring to have someone on guard at night. Before they knew it, the mutton soup and flatbread had been completely devoured. The meal was extremely satisfying, and everyone had a happy expression on their face. Lu Mingui made an excuse to return the clay pot, while the others had already packed up, extinguished the campfire, and put everything on the mule cart. According to the plan, the family was to travel to Shang County that day. The road from Renchou to Shangxian is a main road, which makes the journey much easier. More and more people appeared on the road. It wasn't until dusk that the family arrived at the north gate of the county town. There were constables on duty at the city gate. The young constable glanced at the travel permit, then looked at the group of people, before saying, settle in quickly after entering the city. Don't go out at night, or you'll get a beating. Having seen their travel permits and knowing that they were first-time visitors to Shang County and were all honest, simple farmers, he offered this reminder. Lu Wenli thanked the constable and secretly slipped 2 copper coins into his hand. The constable didn't complain about the small amount and accepted it, adding, the inns in the north of the city are more affordable than those in the south. Thank you, sir. Lu Mingui stood not far away, listening to the conversation between the two, and breathed a sigh of relief. There were almost no checks or inspections, and no city fees were collected, which was much better than she had imagined. I only need to stay in the city for 1 night, and I'll leave first thing tomorrow morning. Since the young constable has said so, we must find an inn to stay in, so as not to break the curfew. Actually, she had originally planned to stay at an inn, since everyone had been in the wild for 2 days and was covered in dust and dirt. Even if you can't wash up properly at the inn, at least you can lie down comfortably and sleep more peacefully. The group hadn't gone far into the city when she spotted an inn. In the daylight, she could make out the words, Shunlai Inn, hanging on the swaying signboard. Yongkong, drive the mule cart over there. I'll go ask the inn if they have any vacancies. Lu Wenli grabbed her arm. Little sister, let me go ask. Wait for me here. Lu Mingui followed, saying, I'll go with you. She was afraid her older brother would spend money, so she decided to go with him. The shopkeeper was a lean, middle-aged man. When he heard someone inquiring about the price of the shared room, he looked up and sized up the 2 of them. There were 2 travel-worn, honest faces, and a mule cart parked not far away. Is this a family visit? They're definitely not business people. Too lazy to check the travel permit, he simply said, a dormitory room costs 5 coins a night, and 3 coins for a child. How many people live here? Lu Wenli thought for a moment and then said, Manager, the dormitory is crowded and chaotic. I have female relatives with 2 young daughters at home. It's inconvenient for us to stay in a shared dormitory. Do you have any guest rooms? Although he was reluctant to spend money, he couldn't let his younger sister and the others squeeze into the dormitory. Lu Mingui nodded in agreement. Brother, let's have 2 guest rooms, there are a lot of people in our family. The shopkeeper glanced at her again, sensing she was someone who could make decisions, and quickly nodded, yes. The 2nd floor is the upper-class room, which is more expensive. If you don't mind, there are 2 empty rooms in the backyard. The empty room is a bit small, but it's quiet, and it only costs 30 coins a night. Lu Mingui listened and found it to be roughly what she had expected, so she booked 2 empty rooms. Lu Wenli, Lu Yongkong, their 2 children, and Song Xiaodong lived in a shared dormitory. There are 2 guest rooms. One is for Wang Shi, Xinghua and Lu Huan stay in, and the other is for Song Xiaoqiu and Shen Juya to sleep with Man. Finding an opportunity, Lu Mingui whispered, "Brother, why don't you stay in the guest rooms too? It will cost more money, but you'll be more comfortable." Lu Wenli replied, "Men aren't that delicate. As long as we can lie down and sleep for one night, that's fine." Then they rushed to pay the money. Lu Mingui stopped trying to persuade him and asked the shopkeeper, "Is it convenient to park the mule cart in the backyard? Give the mule some more hay and water." The shopkeeper agreed, explaining that he would have to pay for this, and gave him 3 coins. Once everything was settled, the shopkeeper had his assistant lead the way for them. The young waiter was quite clever. He led everyone to the backyard and asked, "Would you like hot water tonight, sir? It'll cost 2 coins, and we'll bring it to you after we've boiled it. If you need a meal, you can buy food in our small kitchen." Lu Mingui refused them all. She has food and hot water, so she won't spend the money. The young shopkeeper wasn't annoyed. These people were traveling far away, and they would stretch every penny in half to spend it. It was normal for them to be reluctant to spend money. Once the man was led to the door, the waiter left him there. It was the first time anyone had stayed at an inn, and they were filled with curiosity and excitement. The children looked back and forth between the 2 rooms. The room was indeed very small, with only a hard bed, a table and a stool, but the doors and windows were intact and could be bolted. While Wang was making the bed with Xinghua, Song Xiaoqiu was also busy making the bed. When Lu Mingui had a spare moment, she brought out Tuantuan and Yuan and let Shen Juya breastfeed them. Shen Juya hugged the 2 babies and kissed them sweetly. She really liked it and could never get enough of looking at it. Lu Mingui returned to the White House, where the braised pork she had cooked earlier was still inside, steaming hot. She took a lot more steamed buns, which she had steamed at home before, using coarse flour, so they weren't very noticeable. The buns were already cold when they were brought in, but luckily there was a house where we could turn on the stove to steam them. Steaming the buns was quick. Once the hot and fluffy buns were out of the steamer, they were packed in a winnowing basket, along with braised pork, before heading home. Man, go and call your aunt and uncle to come for dinner." Lu Mingui herself went to the outer courtyard to deliver some steamed buns and braised pork to Lu Wenli and the others. To make it easier to eat, she had already broken the steamed bun in half and put a piece of glistening braised pork inside, and also gave me a small jar of dried radish. "Brother, how's your accommodation here?" She asked a question, and then looked through the straw curtain. She could see that someone was already lying inside, and an unpleasant smell wafted out as the straw curtain was lifted. Lu Wenli nodded. "It's all right, not many people, not too crowded. Lu Qing and Lu Happy sleep at the innermost part, as does Xiao Dong, while Yang Kong sleeps on the outside in front, so they can't get crowded." He called everyone out and they ate in a corner of the courtyard, as it was inconvenient with so many people around. The savory sauce from the braised pork made the steamed buns moist and glistening, and everyone devoured them. Lu Mingui added, "After you've eaten, get some rest. We'll leave first thing tomorrow morning." They all agreed. Lu Mingui also hurried back to her room. The whole family was waiting for her to eat. Chapter 216 Good Fortune. Wang asked curiously, "Little sister, where did you get this braised pork?" "So much." Lu Mingui smiled and said, "I bought it from the shopkeeper. It looks delicious, so it must taste good too. The older brothers have already started eating, so let's eat quickly too. It's getting dark, this oil lamp won't last much longer." She went to check and found that there was an oil lamp in the room, but only a little bit of oil was left, and she guessed that it would run out of oil and then be discontinued. She then said to everyone, "I've also asked for some hot water. After we finish eating, everyone can wash their faces. Wipe your body again." After dinner, everyone took turns washing up. She secretly slipped a set of thermal underwear to Wang Shi. "Sister-in-law, this is something I bought in town a long time ago. Aren't you afraid of the cold? This will keep you warm inside." She originally wanted to take out the remaining 4 sets of thermal underwear, but after thinking about it, she decided against it. Young people aren't that afraid of the cold, so they shouldn't expose too much skin. Others are fine, though. Lu Mingui was particularly worried about Zhao Xinghua. This child loves to take advantage of others and always thinks about her parents' family. She always puts her parents' family before her husband's family. I don't know if she can keep her mouth shut. She tries to hide things from them as much as possible. At this moment, Wang looked at the autumn clothes and asked the same question she had asked Lu Mingui, "Is this clothing? It's so small, how will you wear it?" Lu Mingui mimicked the curly-haired woman, forcefully stretching open the thermal underwear. Look, even a 200-pound person can wear this. Wang laughed. Who can grow so fat? I've never seen anyone this fat in the surrounding villages. Lu Mingui thought to himself, I've seen it before. Xu Yang weighs 200 jin. Upon further reflection, the weights on both sides are different. Xu Yang's 200 jin would actually be 160 or 70 jin in the Ming Dynasty. On the contrary, what was 200 jin in the Ming Dynasty would be nearly 240 jin in later generations. Looking at it this way, what she said is even more outrageous than what the curly-haired woman said. He quickly coughed twice to cover it up, and only advised, you'll know once you wear it. Wang obediently put it on close to her body. At first, she was a little uncomfortable and felt that the fabric was tightly binding her. But after a while, I got used to it and found it to be quite nice. It's really warm, but I've never worn clothes like this before. It's even tighter than a bra. Lu Mingui comforted her. What's the big deal? It's worn close to the skin, and no one will see it. You're wearing a padded coat over your clothes. In fact, Lu Mingui had other small items, such as underwear, but after thinking about it, she didn't dare to give them to Wang Shi. At night, the peaceful environment makes people relax, surrounded by the breathing of loved ones, rather than the howling wind. Everyone slept very well that night. Because there was a bed available, Lu Mingui left Tuantuan and Yuan with Shen Juya so that the mother and children could get along well. He slept alone in the house. When she woke up, all her fatigue had vanished, and she got up to cook. Breakfast was simple. I just cooked millet porridge and took out some steamed wild vegetable and meat buns that I had made before. Considering that Lu Yunxi might come, she left 2 steamed buns and a bowl of millet porridge on the table. Only then did they return to the inn. The golden millet cake is cooked until thick and creamy, and when paired with wild vegetable and meat buns, it makes for an extremely satisfying meal. After the meal, the family boarded their mule cart and prepared to leave the inn. The adults were carrying things and walked slowly. Man and Lu Huan held hands and walked forward with their short legs. Although Lu Huan is a year older, the two are now about the same height and both have inherited the appearance of the Lu family, with big eyes, fair skin, and are very good looking. Lu Huan has a pointed chin, while Man's face, just like her name, is rosy, plump, and round. From a distance, they look like twins. When they left the inn, they saw a carriage parked in front of it. The carriage was very grand and far more luxurious than that of ordinary people. 2 servants dressed in short blue jackets stood beside the carriage, along with 2 maids in plain colored dresses. A young woman, supported by her servant, walked toward the carriage. The woman was dressed in even more luxurious clothes, wearing a fox fur cloak, but her face was slightly pale, clearly indicating that she was not in good health. Hearing the little girl's laughter, she turned around, glanced around casually, and then stopped at Man. She then whispered something to the maid. The maid stepped forward, walked up to Man and Lu Huan, and took out a purse. Whose little baby are you? Want some candy? This is sesame candy. Haven't you ever tried it before? It's so fragrant. It smells and tastes sweet. Seeing that Lu Huan was a stranger, Man was unwilling to take her things. Without saying a word, she pulled Lu Huan back. Lu Huan wasn't easily swayed either. Despite the enticing aroma of the sesame candy, she still protected Man. The 2 sisters stared at the servant woman, their faces full of wariness. Seeing this from afar, Lu Mingui quickly stepped forward to protect the 2 girls, then looked at the servant woman. Who are you? The servant woman also looked the old woman up and down. She was wearing a coarse cloth jacket and had only a wooden hairpin in her hair. She looked like an ordinary farmer. She straightened up, a hint of disdain in her eyes. Who are you to this child? Before Lu Mingui could react, she added, our mistress is the wife of Master Sun of Hejian Prefecture. She runs a medicinal herb business and her family is very wealthy. She loves children the most, and seeing how clever your daughter is, she wanted to call her over for a chat. Lu Mingui followed her gaze and looked towards Mrs. Sun. A woman not far away, holding her maid's hand, had a smug smile on her face. Lu Mingui felt a little heavy-hearted. She shook her head, took the hands of her 2 children, and said, thank you for your kindness, madam, but we still have a long way to go and cannot afford to delay. Let's leave it at that. Being directly rejected, the maidservant's face immediately darkened. How can you be so ungrateful, old woman? This is a blessing my wife has given you. He then advised, don't be ungrateful. If you win my wife's favor, you'll be rewarded handsomely. Lu Mingui noticed something was off about the woman and just wanted to leave with her granddaughter as soon as possible. We dare not accept such a blessing, nor do we want any benefits. The child is still young and doesn't understand manners. If he offends madam, it would be unpleasant. So, I won't bother you any longer. After saying that, he pulled the two of them away. The maidservant, humiliated, blushed deeply and blocked Lu Mingui's path, angrily shouting, "Stop! My mistress hasn't spoken yet, how can you leave?" Lu Mingui also got angry. How could this be so unreasonable? She's just a wealthy merchant's wife, not an official's wife, yet she dares to stop people in the street. Are you trying to kidnap me? Chapter 217 Investigating. Before she could speak, Mrs. Sun came over, supported by her maid. She glanced at the maidservant, a hint of impatience in her eyes. "Mama Kui, look at you, what have you done to her? Get out of here." Then she looked at Lu Mingui and said in a soft voice, "Grandma, I just wanted to say something because your child is so well behaved and cute. What is it that makes you so agitated? If this child pleases me, I will give you some more money as a reward, which will also help your family." She was adept at using money to get people to do things, and she was always successful with it, especially since this family in front of her didn't look wealthy. Upon closer inspection, Lu Mingui noticed that the woman's face was pale and she had dark circles under her eyes, indicating that she was either in poor health or had been suffering from chronic insomnia. Her dislike grew stronger. "We appreciate your kindness, madam," Lu Mingui said, her tone becoming even more subdued. "The child will feel more at ease with us." After saying that, he hurriedly took the two children and prepared to leave. Madam Sun's smile vanished, and she gave Kui's mother a wink. Kui's mother caught up with Lu Mingui again, grabbed her wrist, and asked, "What's the rush, old woman? Isn't this your granddaughter?" He then bluntly stated his purpose. "Why not sell them to our family? Our wives will certainly treat them well. Following our wife, we have no worries about food and drink. Isn't that better than following you and eating coarse food?" Man finally understood. This person wanted to buy her. Doesn't that mean I'll never see my grandmother, my mother, my younger brother, or my younger sister again? Terrified, she fought back her tears and said to the servants, "I won't go with you." Seeing that the other party had finally revealed their true colors, Lu Mingui shook off her hand and hugged Man tightly. Man, don't be afraid, Grandma will protect you." Suppressing her anger, she refused, saying, "This child is the apple of my eye. Even if it were a mountain of gold and silver, my family would never sell him. Although my family was poor, my children never went hungry. Even if you are rich and powerful, you can't forcibly take someone else's child." Shen Juya and the others who were following behind then caught up. Shen Juya took the large bag from her and glared fiercely at Mrs. Sun and Kui Mama's group. "Don't even think about harming the child." This commotion had already alerted many people coming in and out of the inn. Many people gathered around to watch the spectacle. Seeing Lu Mingui's firm attitude and the growing crowd, Kui's mother hesitated and glanced at Mrs. Sun. Mrs. Sun glanced coldly at everyone, her gaze finally settling on the young girl's innocent face, but she said nothing more and let the maid help her into the carriage. As the crowd dispersed, the farce ended abruptly. But Lu Mingui was still shaken. The men, who had just harnessed their mules to the carts, came around from the backyard stables, looking at all this with bewilderment. Song Xiaodong hurriedly asked, "What's wrong? Why is Man crying?" Lu Mingui let out a breath and recounted the events, which filled the group with righteous indignation. "Is there no law in broad daylight? I've never heard of anyone seeing a beautiful baby on the street and wanting to buy it and take it home." Lu Mingui interrupted them, saying, "Let's get out of the city first, don't waste time here." He then slipped another 20 coins to Song Xiaodong. "They didn't see you just now. Go back to the inn and ask around to find out who this person is. I only heard the maid say that her family was in the business of selling medicinal herbs. We'll wait for you at the south gate." Song Xiaodong agreed, pocketed the copper coins, and returned. Lu Yongkong asked, "Auntie, isn't the matter settled? Why do you still need to go back and inquire?" Lu Mingui simply shook her head. "I always felt that the woman didn't seem like she was going to let it go. Did she really manage to sway you with just a few words? If it were that easy, she wouldn't have brought up the matter of buying people earlier." The change of heart was too quick, making her suspicious. Meanwhile, inside the carriage, Mrs. Sun raised her hand and slapped Kui's mother across the face. "Useless thing. It's rare for me to see a child who truly pleases me. Mother Kui covered her face and stammered, yes, it does look very similar, but that old woman's family is unyielding to both soft and hard approaches. The families of those other children sold them for money, unlike this damned old woman. This girl is worthless, just a lowly brat, why would she need to protect her like that? You lowly girl, Mrs. Sun's anger intensified. Is my UAA a lowly girl? Madame Kui quickly knelt down. Madam, this old servant misspoke. Miss UAA is a person of the utmost nobility. These words brought a hint of madness to Mrs. Sun's face. That's right, where is my UAA? Why aren't you going to find UAA for me? Go now, go now. Kui's mother lowered her head, not daring to say a word. After a moment, she calmed down and ordered, tell Zuda to go and see where this family is going. I'll find a chance to snatch that child back. I refuse to believe that I can't have the person I want. Kui's mother was startled. Chase after them. For a little girl, HMPH, Mrs. Sun sneered, her deep eyes staring blankly into the void, what do you know? I dreamt of UAA yesterday. She said it was so cold down there. As her mother, I guess I should send someone down to keep her company again. Mother Kui couldn't help but shiver before getting off the carriage and instructing Zuda to do his work. Lu Mingui and his family waited at the south gate. Although it was their first time in Shang County, they had no intention of wandering around. Everyone was very anxious. Fortunately, Song Xiaodong was quick-witted and returned half an hour later. He leaned close to Lu Mingui and whispered the information he had gathered. She was said to be a wealthy merchant from Hejian Prefecture, but her family was actually from Baoding Prefecture, and she often traveled between the two places. This woman finally gave birth to a daughter after getting married, but she died when she was 5 or 6 years old. She longed for a daughter, but she herself could no longer conceive, so she couldn't resist seeing little girls as young as 5 or 6. Some families were so poor that they couldn't make ends meet, and when they heard about this, they sent their children there, but Mrs. Sun didn't accept them all. Rumor has it that she likes chubby girls, saying they are lucky. So, Song Xiaodong didn't finish her sentence, but just looked at Man with heartache. Man was quite frightened and was currently nestled in Shen Juya's arms, looking dejected. Lu Mingui became even more puzzled. It's normal for her to miss her daughter so much and like girls. But did you see her with any little girls? Where did all the adopted girls go? If you really like it that much, shouldn't you keep it with you? For wealthy families, traveling was far more convenient than for those living in small, humble dwellings. Even if one of the girls is unwell, what about the other children? Didn't they say they adopted several? Moreover, the way he looked at that woman just now was too complicated and deep. It didn't seem like he liked her much, but rather like he was scrutinizing her, calculating, or something else. Song Xiaodong slowly shook his head. He didn't know. Time was tight, and besides, this woman wasn't from Shang County. If he hadn't been a regular at Shunlai Inn, he wouldn't have been able to find out so much. Chapter 218 Taking the Back Path. There was nothing that could be done about it. Lu Mingui knew all too well that her family was small and ordinary, and they weren't even locals. She said, we just have to be careful. He then called out to everyone, Xiaodong is back, let's hurry up and go. The whole family hurried forward, leaving Shang County and heading towards Mozhou. This time it was Shen Juya's turn to ride in the mule cart. She hugged Man and whispered to comfort her, don't be afraid, no one will sell you. You are the apple of your mother's eye, and also the apple of your grandmother's eye. She had already figured it out. Her mother-in-law was treating the family very well these days, and she would be the first to object to anyone selling Man. Moreover, no one else in the family ever considered selling their children. She was truly at ease about that. Man snuggled against her mother's arms, finally feeling a little more at ease. They had only gone a few miles when Sun and his group caught up with them. However, this time no one stepped forward to speak, they simply slowed down and followed at a distance. Lu Mingui glanced back. The carriage curtain was drawn, so she couldn't see the people inside, but she could feel their gazes fixed intently on her family. They've come with ill intentions. Song Xiaodong couldn't help but stop in her tracks. Mother, I'll go ask them what they're up to. But Lu Mingui grabbed her arm. There's no road out there, what can you possibly find out? Take your bow and arrows, you might need them today. Others also became alert. Lu Wenli and his son also noticed something was wrong and came to ask Lu Mingui. Lu Mingui shook his head. It's hard to say now. We don't know what these people are up to. Lu Yongkong frowned. Did they still dare to commit murder? We're almost at Hejian Prefecture, isn't anyone going to take care of things? Lu Mingui chuckled inwardly. His nephew was still too naive, thinking this was his hometown village. She said seriously, they don't have good intentions. Be careful tonight. Based on our pace, we won't make it to Hejian Prefecture today. Even if they manage to reach Hejian Prefecture, this family is a wealthy merchant family in Hejian Prefecture. Wouldn't that be like lambs to the slaughter? A chill ran through her. No matter what, she couldn't let Man be sold like she had in her previous life. The Sun family's carriage followed them all the way, at a leisurely pace, like a cat teasing a mouse. At noon, the family rested and sat down to eat their dry rations. In fact, Lu Mingui had the opportunity to prepare food. For one thing, there was plenty of meat buns. But with the Sun family present, she gave up on the idea. Mrs. Sun also got off the carriage and instructed the servants to roast dried meat by the roadside and set out various kinds of snacks. The aroma wafted over to the Song family, but no one showed any reaction. Man was shielded behind her family, her little face smeared with ash, making her look pitch black. Not only her, but several of the dolls' faces were also covered in black ash. Mrs. Sun was not angry, instead, her eyes became even more fervent. Wow, this family loves children so much. That's really rare. She loved her daughter Yueya too, but fate still took Yueya's life, leaving her to endure the pain of losing her daughter. Why not let these lowly people taste this pain too? Lu Mingui looked at the Sun family members, 2 servants, 2 maids, Mrs. Sun, and Kui Mama. There were fewer people than on their side, but looking at the servants' thick arms, she felt increasingly uneasy. When it was time to set off, she thought for a moment and said to Lu Yongkong, take the back road. She had just looked at the map and realized that because Hejian Prefecture was prosperous, there were roads leading to the surrounding towns. Although it's not as easy to travel as the main road, it offers more hope for the future at this moment. If they were to be driven into Hejian Prefecture by the Sun family like pigs, dogs, cattle, and sheep, they would surely be doomed. The most important reason she dared to take the back path was that she had a compass on her phone. This compass was different from the water compasses and dry compasses she knew before. It was just a small device in her phone, but it could accurately determine the direction. Upon hearing this, Lu Yongkong immediately drove the mule cart onto another small road. The rest of the people followed. Madame Kui had been watching closely, and upon seeing this, she hurriedly said, Madam, that family didn't take the main road, they went down the side road. Mrs. Sun scoffed coldly, what an idiot. If she takes the official road, there will be more people, and I won't touch her on the way. Once we enter Hejian Prefecture, I will separate her family and let her experience my methods. Mother Kui, you must say that little girl is really unlucky. Why wasn't she born in my belly? At least I won't be dragged down and killed by these idiots. Let me think about it. How about I take her back to play for a couple of days first, and then send her to keep UAA company? Mother Kui didn't dare answer, and only asked, what should we do now? What should we do? Do I need to teach you? Of course, we should chase after them. Upon hearing this, Kui's mother hesitated. Madam, there are 3 men and several women among them. Can we catch up and beat them? Mrs. Sun cursed again, calling him an idiot. Are you blind as a bat? Of the 3 men, 1 was old, 1 was young, and only 1 was a strong young man. How could a few women, with their children to protect them, possibly stand a chance against Zhu Da and Zhu Er? Quick, follow them. Make your move when we get to a secluded spot. After hurling a few words of abuse, she was out of breath and leaned against her maid, not wanting to move. How could Kui's mother dare to refute? She knew that the lady was always stubborn and would get what she wanted. Besides, the Zhu brothers do indeed know some martial arts. And so, the Sun family's carriage followed behind the Song and Lu families until nightfall. As the sun set and the path became rugged, the family slowly walked to a place where there was no village in sight. The heavy shadows of the trees along the roadside gave off an eerie feeling. Lu Wenli looked around before saying, Little sister, this road is difficult to walk on at night. Let's rest here. Lu Mingui shared the same idea. Traveling would exhaust them, and continuing would be disadvantageous for them. She stopped and whispered to Song Xiaodong, hold the bow and arrows. If anything unexpected happens, shoot that man dead first. Remember, this is not the time for you to be soft-hearted. Mother believes in you. Song Xiaodong shuddered, but gripped the bow and arrow tightly in his hand, looking warily at the Sun family. The family had just settled in when the Sun family also stopped their carriage. Madame Sun sat in the carriage, lifted the curtain, glanced at Lu Mingui, and sneered condescendingly, "Weren't you supposed to be able to walk a lot? I thought you were going to walk until dawn. Zhu Da, Zhu snatch that child from me." Upon hearing this, Zhu Da, a man with a fierce face and prominent muscles, walked over. He looked like a trained fighter. Upon hearing this, the Lu family father and son, along with Song Xiaodong, stepped forward to block the women. Shen Juya shouted in a trembling voice, "Don't even think about it. Don't you have any respect for the law?" The children were so frightened that they burst into tears. After all, none of them had ever seen anything like it. Lu Mingui raised his voice and said, "Madam, I have something I want to say to you in person." Chapter 219 Murder. As they spoke, Lu Mingui had already walked towards the carriage. Zhu Da and Zhu were focused on the men opposite them and paid no attention to the old woman, letting her approach the carriage. The two chestnut horses seemed to sense Lu Mingui's anger and began to neigh and stir restlessly. The carriage swayed, and Mrs. Sun, impatient, said to Zhu, "It's making me dizzy, quickly unload the horse." Zhu dared not delay, and quickly untied the knot and tied the two horses to a tree not far away. Mrs. Sun finally breathed a sigh of relief, but before she could speak, Kui Mama snorted coldly at Lu Mingui, "You have something to say. What a joke, you wouldn't talk to Our Lady earlier, so why should she listen to you now? What kind of rare thing do you think you are?" Lu Mingui, however, was not angry and did not argue with her, she only wanted to get closer to the carriage. However, Kui's mother took it as a sign that she had given in and felt disdain. She crossed her arms and blocked Lu Mingui's way, even though she was a full half a head taller than Lu Mingui. He spat again, "How dare a lowly person like you approach our wife?" Originally, Mrs. Sun thought so too. They were ungrateful before, and now that they have nowhere else to turn, they're coming to me for help. How ridiculous. But seeing Lu Mingui dare not resist, and the worried and fearful looks of those lowly people, he felt extremely happy. A wicked thought arose in her mind, and she said to Kui's mother, "All right, tell Zhu Da to do it." The Zhu brothers stopped in their tracks, their eyes fixed intently on the elderly, women, and children before them. Song Xiaodong didn't dare to relax. He whispered to Song Xiaoqiu, "Sister, when the time is right, take your sister-in-law and the others to hide in the woods." "But mother," Song Xiaoqiu looked at Lu Mingui with a worried expression, "won't she be in danger?" "It's what mother told me to tell you. You'll only be a burden here. Just take Man and go a little further away." Song Xiaoqiu nodded, quietly took a few steps back, and prepared to find an opportunity to escape with the others. Song Xiaodong and the Lu family father and son stood in front of everyone, fragile yet strong. Mrs. Sun lowered her head and fiddled with the hand warmer for a moment before saying to Lu Mingui, "Although I don't want to hear what you have to say, I do have a few words to say to you." Then, malicious words came out of her pale, paper-like mouth. "Old woman, guess why I'm so insistent on having your granddaughter? Because your granddaughter looks very much like my daughter who died young." At this point, a rare tenderness appeared in her eyes, but it turned sharp in the next moment. "How can such a similar little girl not go and keep my UAA company? UAA must be so cold all alone. I want to turn your granddaughter into a doll so that she can always stay with my UAA. What do you think? Isn't this a great idea? The first two dolls weren't made well, and they weren't as pretty as yours." A smile played on her lips, revealing a look of determination. "Your granddaughter is very beautiful. I'm 90% sure I can make a really beautiful one." As Lu Mingui listened, she became increasingly alarmed. Looking at the pale woman in disbelief, she felt a surge of disgust and fear. Are there really such people in this world? Are they even human? Are they going to turn living people into puppets? Seeing her expression like that, Mrs. Sun felt even better. She laughed triumphantly, and Kui's mother beside her looked equally smug, as if she were talking about something that wasn't even human life, but something that was less than a cat or dog. Seemingly not excited enough, Mrs. Sun added, "It's a pity we didn't bring those tools, otherwise we could sew a doll." Here, even the two maids chimed in, "Yes, we can help Madam thread the needle. I even needed several stitches last time." Lu Mingui took a deep breath. These people all deserve to die. Without further hesitation, she held something in her hand the next moment. It was that cast flamethrower. Crack, stab, blue flames shot out and shot towards Kui's mother, who was closest to her. According to Chen Xin, The temperature was over 1,200 degrees Celsius, which could instantly cause skin to split open. Just like when she dealt with Hu Kuihua last time, Lu Mingui will be even more ruthless this time. Don't these people enjoy harming others? Don't they like to disregard human life? Now it's their turn to experience this. When Kui's mother was being targeted by a strange-looking object, she hadn't even had time to react before she saw blue flames coming straight towards her face. The blue flames brought waves of heat, and the instantaneous high temperature and excruciating pain caused her exposed flesh to sizzle. Kui's mother instinctively tried to dodge, but in an instant, the flames had already set her clothes and hair ablaze. Ah! A piercing, terrifying scream rang out, and she could no longer bear it, collapsing onto the carriage. Lu Mingui, however, did not relax and aimed her flamethrower at the maidservant beside the carriage. She had assessed the situation and found that the most robust woman among them was Kui Mama, followed by the two maids, while Mrs. Sun was a sickly woman. Blue flames shot out again, catching the two maids off guard. They crouched down, clutching their burned areas, and screamed in agony. This unexpected turn of events had already alarmed Zhu Da and Zhu Er. Seeing that his master was in trouble, Zhu Da turned around and ran towards Lu Mingui. Just as he was about to grab Lu Mingui, he suddenly felt a sharp pain in his back. He froze, reached out to touch it, and found an arrow. An arrow deeply embedded in his own flesh. He turned around in disbelief and found himself face to face with Song Xiaodong behind him. It was him. This kid shot me. He stared intently at Song Xiaodong with murderous intent in his eyes, abandoned his attempt to capture Lu Mingui, and slowly walked towards Song Xiaodong. 1 step, 2 steps, the feathered arrows on his body trembled with his movements. Faced with all this, Song Xiaodong was already so frightened that his hands were trembling and his heart was pounding, and a lot of fine sweat appeared on his forehead. The opponent knew how to use fists and feet, and was a full 1.5 heads taller than me, all muscle, with fists bigger than sandbags. But now is not the time to be afraid. He is the only one in the family with a weapon, and he cannot back down under any circumstances. If he quits, his mother will be in danger. Others are in danger too. Without thinking of anything else, he drew his bow again, preparing to fire another arrow at Zhu Da. Unexpectedly, Zhu Da only took 3 steps forward before collapsing heavily to the ground, his body convulsing. Not far away, Zhu Er saw this and his eyes turned red as he rushed towards Song Xiaodong. How dare you hurt my elder brother? Prepare to die. He didn't take Song Xiaodong seriously. This kid just attacked from the shadows, what real skills does he have? Song Xiaodong gained immense confidence from Zhu Da's death, and the arrow he was originally going to give to Zhu Da was now aimed at Zhu Er. The string was drawn taut, and with a whoosh, it pierced the air, striking Zhu Er's chest with greater force and stability than before. Zhu Er fell to the ground with a thud, dying even more swiftly than Zhu Da. Only his pair of bloodshot eyes showed that he died with his eyes open in disbelief. On the other side, the screams of the maid and Kui Mama rose and fell. Kui's mother struggled to look at Mrs. Sun and pleaded, "Madam, save me. Save me. Where's the water? There's water in the truck. Put out the fire." Chapter 220 Burned. Mrs. Sun was so frightened that she was completely disoriented and no longer remembered to look for water to put out the fire. Besides, the water in the carriage was only enough for drinking, let alone extinguishing the fire. But Kui's mother couldn't wait any longer, and with her body still burning, she climbed onto the carriage to find water. But how could a carriage full of brocade and timber withstand such conditions? The fire raged even more fiercely under the dry night wind. Soon, Mrs. Sun's clothes in the carriage also caught fire, and her pale face turned rosy, a rare and healthy glow. In a panic, she angrily berated Kui's mother. "You damned old woman, get out of here. Why don't you burn yourself to death? Now you've gotten me into trouble." She tried desperately to climb out of the carriage, but was held tightly by Kui's mother. "Madam, don't go, help me. No one knows where Mrs. Sun, who was so sickly, got the strength, but she actually kicked Kui's mother away. She struggled to climb out of the carriage, only to find that the two maids had also fainted on the ground. She had no choice but to beg Lu Mingui again, "Old woman, please save me. I have plenty of money at home. If you save me, I'll give you mountains of gold and silver. From now on, I will never again have designs on your granddaughter." Where was the smugness from before? His face was now filled with sorrow. However, Lu Mingui had no intention of giving up. "Since we've already started, we're going to go all the way. If even one member of the Sun family survives and returns to Hejian Prefecture, the calamity of their family's destruction will fall upon the Song and Lu families. Without saying a word, she raised the flamethrower again and burned the unburned parts of the carriage once more. The wooden shafts and carriages were ablaze, flames shooting into the sky. With only a breath left, Madame Sun saw that there was no way to call for help, so she simply cursed, "What a vicious old woman. Go ahead and do it. My husband is Sun, the prefect of Hejian. He will definitely avenge me. You can just wait to die. None of you lowly people will escape." She was probably too excited, and the black smoke made her cough repeatedly. She soon fainted. In the woods in the distance, the women of the Song and Lu families were all hiding here. Wang and Shen Juya each held their children tightly and dared not make a sound. None of them had ever seen anything like this before. Adults and children huddled together, too afraid to look at anything, like quails. Song Xiaoqiu peeked out and observed carefully. What if there's a way I can use my skills? Putting everything else aside, I'm so young, yet my mother is always the one taking the lead, which makes me uneasy. At this moment, Zhao Xinghua also came closer to her, looking at the carriage, and asked in confusion, "What's that? Why does it look like Aunt has fire in her hand?" Song Xiaoqiu turned to look at her, equally puzzled. "Really? I didn't see it." Zhao Xinghua took a step forward. "Look, isn't that?" Before she could finish speaking, a sharp pain shot through the back of her neck, her vision went black, and she collapsed to the ground. Song Xiaoqiu hurriedly dropped the wooden stick in her hand and checked Zhao Xinghua's breath, thinking to herself, "Sister-in-law, I didn't mean to. Luckily you're all right, you can lie here for a while." She was afraid that others would discover her mother's secret, so she had no choice but to resort to this desperate measure. On an open space, Lu Mingui shouted, "Drag those two over here and burn them to the ground. Hurry, all of you, hurry up." Although she was afraid, and her voice trembled with fear, her words were still clear and coherent. The three of them set to work together. Lu Wenli and Lu Yongkong threw the bodies into the carriage, while Song Xiaodong and Lu Mingui grabbed some dry grass and firewood and threw them in. The fire intensified, and a burning smell emanated from the carriage. After doing all this, Lu Mingui felt weak and almost collapsed, but fortunately Song Xiaodong caught her. She steadied herself and asked her son, "Were you scared just now?" Song Xiaodong had already overcome his fear. He stared at the firelight with a hint of pleasure in his eyes. "Mother, your son is not afraid. That's just how the world is. I thought that if I just behaved myself and didn't provoke anyone, everything would be fine, but someone still came to kill me. These people and events we encountered today are like a bolt from the blue for our family. Have we offended them? But they treat man like this." Thinking of the horrifying things Mrs. Sun had just said, a hint of hatred appeared on his face. Lu Mingui patted his shoulder and praised, "You've grown up. I didn't dare to lay a hand on Song Daji that time. Today, not only did he bring himself to do it, but his archery skills were also extremely accurate. If it weren't for you, both our families would be dead here tonight." Song Xiaodong pursed her lips. "Mother, you were so farsighted when you taught me archery. I haven't slacked off every single day for the past 6 months." He then asked, "Mother, did you foresee this calamity coming today?" Lu Mingui shook her head. "How could I have thought of so much? All I know is that the journey of fleeing famine will certainly not be peaceful." At this moment, Lu Yongkong walked over, looking at Lu Mingui with surprise and suspicion. "Aunt, I saw something in your hand just now, and then. Lu Mingui continued, "And then fire broke out. In the heat of the moment, I didn't care about anything else. Sure enough, I was seen again. Since you've seen it, I won't hide it from you. I've told your father about this. Your aunt encountered some trouble and received guidance from a celestial being, which is how she obtained those things." She briefly explained the Ruyi Chenkin bag, which was similar to what she had told Lu Wenli. The events of the past gradually connected in Lu Yongkong's mind. So, those belongings were actually hidden away by my aunt. The matter was too bizarre, but that wasn't what Lu Yongkong cared about. He was bothered by the lack of trust. Lu Yongkong was both heartbroken and aggrieved. "Auntie, don't you believe me? Why didn't you tell me about something so important?" Lu Mingui laughed. "How could I not believe you? I never even told your father about how you used to pee naked and play in the mud when you were little. Your aunt watched you grow up, how could she not believe you? It's just that the fewer people who know about this, the better. The more people know, the more trouble they will cause. The more secrets a person has, the more burdens they carry on their heart. Auntie, You're doing this for your own good. Lu Yongkong listened and found it made more and more sense. His aunt was doing it all for his own good. He immediately felt better. His aunt not only trusted him, but also cared for him deeply, always considering his needs in every way. No wonder he's his aunt. Auntie, don't worry, I'll keep this to myself. I won't tell anyone. Lu Mingui nodded in affirmation. Yes, Auntie believes you. Chapter 221 Buried. The women emerged from the woods, and Song Xiaoqiu called out, "Cousin, come quick. A dead tree branch just fell from the tree and hit my cousin-in-law on the head. She's passed out. I didn't dare call you because those bad guys were still around." Everyone rushed over to see. Not far away, two chestnut horses were already restless because of the firelight. Lu Mingui did not go with them, but turned around and walked towards the horse. The chestnut horse was glossy and smooth all over, with a strong and well-proportioned body. Even if she didn't know much about horses, she could tell that it was a fine steed, a top-quality thoroughbred. Then she thought of what Mrs. Sun had said earlier. Her husband should have been a medicinal herb merchant, but he had donated money to get the honorary title of Yuanwailang, which was why he was qualified to ride in this two-horse carriage. She was now facing a dilemma as she looked at the two horses. Kill it. This horse isn't so easy to kill. She was afraid it would kick her away. Let them go. What if old Ma knows the way and exposes tonight's events? Besides, she couldn't bear to kill such a fine horse, nor could she bear to let it go. If only we could be put into the White House like those two old hens. Anyway, the White House is getting bigger every day, and it's no problem to put two horses in it. But right now, both horses were frightened, snorting white vapor from their nostrils and pawing at the ground with their hooves, making it impossible to approach them. Lu Mingui stood not far away and suddenly remembered that horses love to eat candy. She does have candy, and quite a lot of it. These were all gifts given to Sister Yang by people in the market when they had a baby or got married. Sister Yang thought they were too sweet and didn't want to eat any, so she gave them all to Lu Mingui. Lu Mingui would occasionally take one out to coax her granddaughter, but fearing a situation like Ergo's, she didn't let Man eat much. She couldn't bear to eat it herself, and kept the rest of the candy in the White House. She picked out a few candies that she thought the horses would like, unwrapped them, and then carefully tossed them to one of the horses from about 2 meters away. The sugar cube fell into the loosened soil and quickly became covered in dirt. The chestnut horse disdained to eat the sugar cubes that had fallen into the soil and stomped on them. Lu Mingui cursed inwardly, what a spendthrift. Such good candy, and he just stomped on it like that. But she dared not take it back. If she were trampled by a horse's hoof, she would be in big trouble. What should we do? After much deliberation, I still couldn't bear to give up these two horses. Lu Mingui mustered her courage, knowing she could quickly hide in the White House. With one hand touching her hairpin, and the other hand holding two candies, she slowly handed them to the relatively docile horse. She was just waiting for the horse to kick up its tail so she could run away. The chestnut horse was initially wary, but then seemed to sense Lu Mingui's kindness. It twitched its nostrils, sniffed the sweet scent emanating from her palm, and then stuck out its tongue to snatch two candies. It seemed quite satisfied with the taste of the sugar. After chewing it, it lowered its head and rubbed its head against Lu Mingui. It was so strong that Lu Mingui was pushed around and swayed by it, so she quickly took out two more candies. The other horse seemed to be affected by it, gradually calming down and even looking over expectantly. Lu Mingui laughed. This was still a greedy horse. She coaxed him like a child. Do you want some too? You little glutton. All right, you, get one too. Eat up, eat up. A few candies were enough to calm the two horses down, which made Lu Mingui very happy. She remembered what Lu Yunxi had said. Foodies have the softest hearts. These two horses are such gluttons, they're so easy to please. She muttered to herself, it's not safe for you to be out here. If the Sun family finds out, it will be terrible. Go and stay in the White House for a while. We'll let you out once we've settled down in Suzhou. The two horses vanished instantly upon her touch. The White House can hold a lot of things. Living things will remain living things when they go in, but they won't eat or drink, maintaining the same state as when they first entered. Naturally, there's no need to worry about them defecating or urinating and making a mess. Just like those two old hens still squatting in the corner. Lu Mingui suddenly realized that although this place could hold living creatures, it would be better to send them to a farm to be raised. She tentatively pushed open the door leading to the farm. It was morning, and the sun had just risen. There weren't many people at Mi Farm yet. Shuyang wasn't there, nor were the helpers. Lu Mingui then quietly appeared in the courtyard, leading his horse. Two chestnut horses sniffed the air curiously, but showed no unease. Lu Mingui took out her phone and found Xu Yang's phone number. On the other end of the phone, Xu Yang was buying groceries when he heard that she had brought two horses, and he was immediately surprised. "You have horses at home? Wow, I never expected that. Horses aren't pets that ordinary people keep, are they?" Lu Mingui chuckled, offering no explanation, but instead added, "There are also two old hens." Upon hearing this, Xu Yang immediately laughed and said, "An old hen? Is it home-raised? I was just thinking of making some old hen soup today. What a coincidence, just what I wanted came true, ha ha ha." Lu Mingui was about to say that they were kept for laying eggs, but hearing how happy Xu Yang was, she swallowed her words. "I'll tie the horse up in the yard. Could you please find a place to keep it there for now? The hen is in the bamboo basket, you'll see it when you come. I have something to do, so I'll head back now. Oh, and I need to borrow 2 shovels." Xu Yang readily agreed. "Take it and use it. You can take it anywhere on the hillside behind." To help customers farm, a variety of farming tools were prepared on the hillside, with shovels being an essential item. Lu Mingui took 2, plus the one her family already had, and the one from the Lu family, which was enough for her needs. She was going to bury those charred corpses, but even though they had been burning for a while, there were still some things that weren't completely burned away. Carriages, wood, and most decorations can be burned, but nails, hinges, and axle fins cannot. Moreover, the shovels here in Suyang are sharper and easier to use. When she returned with the items, the air was still filled with the smell of burning. The children fell asleep under the care of Wang and Shen Juya, as instructed by Lu Mingui, who was afraid of frightening them. Xinghua was still asleep, and Song Xiaoqiu was taking care of her. Lu Wenli, smelling the unpleasant odor in the air, comforted him, "Don't worry, it's windy tonight, it'll be fine after dawn." Lu Mingui nodded, then asked, "How's the fever?" "It's almost burned to ashes." The one who answered was Song Xiaodong, whose face was pale. The others also looked unwell, both shocked and frightened. They were all honest, hard-working farmers who toiled in the soil. Who would have dared to think of killing someone before? They even killed several of them. Just thinking about it makes me feel uncomfortable all over. I don't know where I am, but I feel like I want to cry, laugh, or vomit. On the contrary, Lu Mingui was in the best condition, not because she was brave, but because she had experienced too much. She took a deep breath and said, "For now, let's dig holes and bury these. If the Sun family finds out, we're still doomed." His calm words invigorated the others. It was better to live than to die. Lu Wenli nodded first. "Let's dig. If there are many people digging together, it will be done quickly." The group found a secluded spot and began digging a hole. Several charred human bones were thrown in, covered with soil, and then covered with withered leaves as a cover. After all this commotion, it was already past midnight. Chapter 222 Intimidation. The black ash on the ground was not obvious, as it was covered by fallen leaves and withered grass. The body was buried in the wilderness, and fresh soil was also used to cover it up. Lu Mingui was still deeply worried. Lu Wenli comforted him, "No one noticed us taking the small path today, and I reckon no one will find out. Besides, the land we chose is wild land. With the current drought, no one wants to clear land, so don't worry. We've considered everything we can, the rest is up to fate." After thinking for a moment, he tentatively asked, "Don't you have that Rui Chenkin bag? These things can't be put in." Lu Mingui shook her head. "I've tried it. Human bones won't fit, but the wreckage of a carriage can. I've already taken both horses inside. I'll see if there's a chance to bring them out when we get to Suzhou. Right now, we need to leave as soon as possible, pass through Hejian Prefecture, and get to Dezhou as soon as possible. Upon arriving in Hejian Prefecture, one must first pass through Jingtown to Fucheng, then from Fucheng to Jingzhou, before finally reaching Dezhou." Lu Wenli nodded. "Then let's get going. Go see if Xinghua has woken up yet. If she doesn't wake up, put her on the mule cart and pull her away." Fortunately, Zhao Xinghua woke up in time. She was dazed for a moment before touching the back of her neck and saying, "It hurts so much, what happened to me?" Then he asked, "What about the bad guys?" Song Xiaoqiu felt a pang of guilt, but Lu Yongkong quickly interjected, "You got hit on the head by a tree branch. Luckily, Xiao Chu caught you, otherwise you would have fallen to the ground, which would have been troublesome. Look at you, why did you have to hide under a dead tree of all places?" That was quite a blow. I was stunned for a while. The bad guys were naturally driven away. Lu Yongkang didn't tell the truth. He felt there was no need to tell his wife about it, murder was just too horrifying. The others were even more tacit, making no mention of what had just happened. Zhao Xinghua stopped asking and scratched her head, looking puzzled. Did you hit your head just now? Why does your neck hurt even more? However, she still said to Song Xiaoqiu, thank you, cousin. Song Xiaoqiu lowered her head slightly and waved her hands repeatedly, saying, it's all what I should do. By the way, cousin-in-law, we're about to leave. Are you able to walk? Why don't you take the mule cart instead? Zhao Xinghua shook her head. I'm fine, I can walk. She felt like she had had a good sleep, and apart from a slight pain in her neck, she was fine. Without taking a break, the group continued their journey in the mule cart. Zhao Xinghua then moved closer to Lu Yongkang and whispered, you were close by just now, did you see it? Lu Yongkang's heart skipped a beat, but he pretended not to know. What did you see? She glanced back at Lu Mingui before speaking furtively. I was too far away to see clearly, but I think I saw fire coming out of my aunt's hand. That fire was a bright blue, just like will-o'-the-wisps. As she spoke, her body involuntarily trembled slightly. Lu Yongkang thought to himself, oh no. He never expected that his wife would find out about this. Was she not hit by a tree branch, but fainted from fright? Then he thought again, he had promised his aunt not to tell anyone about this, so naturally he couldn't tell anyone. Besides, he knew Zhao Xinghua, although she wasn't a bad person, she was always thinking about her family. She might not tell anyone else, but she might tell her family. For example, she told her family about selling wild vegetables before, and even got her brothers involved. Fortunately, my aunt didn't get angry that time, but this time I absolutely can't say anything. He glared at him. Are you seeing things? You must be mistaken. I was so close and I didn't see it. I didn't see wrong, Zhao Xinghua said confidently. My eyesight is excellent. She recalled it carefully. My aunt raised her hand and flames shot out, like will-o'-the-wisps. The woman's face was burned, and she screamed. Then, I fainted. Lu Yongkang could only say, my aunt is a person, not a ghost. How did you bring up will-o'-the-wisps? I think you're just seeing things. It was clearly my aunt who held the torch and burned that woman. I saw it with my own eyes. He spoke with such certainty that Zhao Xinghua hesitated. Really? Could it be that I really saw it wrong? Just when Lu Yongkang thought Zhao Xinghua was done talking about it, she added, actually, there's one more thing. Is there anything else? Lu Yongkang frowned. Was there anything else he hadn't noticed? Zhao Xinghua whispered again, it's about Tuantuan and Yuan. There was a place at the back of the mule cart that was meant for Tuantuan and Yuan to sleep in, but yesterday when I went to play with the children, I found that neither of them were there. Later I went to ask Shen Juya, where are the children? You didn't see how flustered she was. Suddenly, her aunt brought the children over and said that both children were with her. But I clearly saw my aunt's hands were empty before. Lu Yongkang broke out in a cold sweat upon hearing this, thinking that he needed to find an opportunity to tell his aunt about it. However, for now, we still need to keep Zhao Xinghua calm. You must have seen wrong, Lu Yongkang insisted. I saw my aunt and the others taking turns holding the baby. Don't let your imagination run wild. Zhao Xinghua was still unconvinced. You just don't believe me. I clearly. Lu Yongkang interrupted her. Shut up, or you'll spout nonsense. He decided to give his arrogant wife a scare. If my aunt had such abilities, would you have been able to see it? I would have chopped you into 7 or 8 pieces and fed you to the wild dogs. Besides, if you've misjudged and are falsely accusing your aunt, do you think our family will let you get away with it? There are only 2 paths, either divorce or death. Think about which one you should choose. Zhao Xinghua suddenly realized what was happening and broke out in a cold sweat. My husband is right. Whether this is true or I've misread it, if I still want to live a good life, I'll just have to swallow it down. She shouldn't have been such a gossip. Thinking of this, she secretly glanced back at Lu Mingui, but felt there was nothing special about it. Compared to her mother-in-law, she was only slightly more composed. Maybe I really did see it wrong. Just then, Lu Mingui glanced over, his eyes filled with a deep, unsettling look. Zhao Xinghua was so startled that she quickly turned her head away, no longer daring to look around. She discovered that her sister-in-law's presence was far more imposing than her mother-in-law's. Regardless, Zhao Xinghua did not dare to approach the Song family again during the rest of her trip. he felt even more awe towards Lu Mingui. Chapter 223 Donkey Meat Sandwich. The two families hurried as fast as they could and finally arrived at the city gate. It was already noon, and everyone hadn't rested at all and was exhausted. Even now, seeing the city gate, he didn't relax. Fujian Prefecture was prosperous, and its city gates were tall and imposing. There were many people queuing up outside the city gate to enter the city. Lu Wenli looked at the large characters on the city gate. "Little sister, we've finally arrived. Let's hurry into the city." Lu Mingui agreed, but then overheard a conversation between two servants not far away. The two of them chatted back and forth. The thinner servant said, "Doesn't our mistress usually take this route? Why do we need to come to the city gate to pick her up?" The chubby guy replied, "Hey, you don't know, I heard that the master had a nightmare that his wife drowned in the water, and he was worried, so he told us to wait here." The thinner servant chuckled. "Had a nightmare? I think he's afraid his wife will suddenly come back and catch him cheating. The master is currently having a passionate affair with the most beautiful courtesan at Tianxiang Pavilion." The chubby servant chuckled twice before saying, "It's none of our business. I just don't know if madam has set off yet. If she has, she should arrive in 5 days. My wife always stays at her parents' home for half a month each time. It's time for her to come back." "That's not necessarily true. Maybe if they're in a good mood, they'll stay a few more days." "Oh, who knows? You wait here, I'm going to Tianxiang Tower to take the master home." The chubby servant gave his instructions, then turned and left. Although she only heard the gist of it, Lu Mingui inexplicably felt that the two people were talking about Mrs. Sun. Her gaze shifted downwards, and she noticed that both men had waist tags on their waists, with the character, Sun, faintly visible. "It seems my guess was right. If what these two men said is true, I have at least 5 days to escape." Lu Mingui lowered her eyes and urged her family, "Hurry up." The soldiers guarding Fujian Prefecture were much colder and more serious than the previous soldiers. Fortunately, Lu Mingui and his group seemed honest and simple, and unlike merchants, they didn't need to check the goods or pay taxes. They only looked at the travel permits and did a brief inspection before letting them in. Even after entering the city, they dared not waste any time. The mule cart sped along the stone-paved road, intending to leave the city directly. The streets were bustling with activity. Various hawking cries and calls to attract customers filled the air. They sell groceries, Hangzhou silk and Suzhou satin, calligraphy and paintings, rouge and face powder, needles and thread. There were even food vendors. Steamed buns, freshly baked steamed buns. Soft, fluffy, and filling. Sugar figurine, buy a sugar figurine. Fujian donkey meat sandwich, crispy on the outside and tender on the inside, served with a bowl of mutton soup, will warm you up and dispel the cold. Please have a seat inside, sir. Lu Qing wasn't in a carriage this time. He was walking alongside the mule cart, listening to the shouts and calls, and couldn't help but swallow hard. Not only him, but the adults were also hungry, and their pace slowed down. Lu Mingui, smelling the delicious aroma wafting from the shop, also slowed down her pace. Although you can't sit in the shop and eat donkey meat sandwiches and drink mutton soup, you can still satisfy your cravings by buying a few to take with you, and most importantly, you can fill your stomach. She called out to Lu Yongkong, who was leading the donkey cart. "Stop for a moment, I'm going to buy some donkey meat sandwiches. You drive the mule cart to the side. Don't block the way." Hearing her say that, the children's faces lit up with joy. They were clearly hungry. Lu Mingui then headed towards the fire-roasted meat shop. There was a large pot in the shop, simmering with donkey meat, and the aroma filled the air. Next to it was a stove for baking flatbread, and next to it were piles of freshly baked flatbread. On the other side, a variety of guests sat at the tables and benches, enjoying their meals. They took a bite of donkey meat sandwich and then drank a sip of hot mutton soup, clearly very satisfied. When the shop assistant saw her come in, he didn't look down on her because of her tattered clothes and travel-worn appearance. After all, anyone who came to the shop to buy baked buns was his bread and butter. He asked with a smile, "What would you like to order?" "Donkey meat sandwich. Would you like a bowl of mutton soup as well?" Lu Mingui looked at it and said, "As long as it's roasted, the mutton soup is fine. I'd like to take it with me, is that convenient?" The waiter nodded. "Convenient, convenient. Our donkey meat sandwiches are the best. Many customers are in a hurry and take them away to go." "How many would you like? How much fat and lean meat? Would you like some braised pork belly?" He then mentioned the prices. Donkey meat with braised meat is the best deal, 10 coins each, if it's just pure meat, 15 coins each. It's not cheap. Lu Mingui thought for a moment and decided to order the ones with braised meat, totaling 26, which meant 2 for each person. The extra 2 were brought to Lu Yunxi so that she could also try the Ming Dynasty's baked buns. The donkey meat sandwiches in Hejian Prefecture are rectangular, unlike the round ones she used to eat in Baoding Prefecture. They look bigger and should be more filling. Seeing that she bought a lot, the waiter said while chopping donkey meat and braised meat, "I'll pour more gravy on you so it will taste even better." After all the donkey meat sandwiches were made and wrapped in oil paper, Lu Mingui was seen off at the door. Lu Mingui hurriedly left with the fire. Her family had been eagerly anticipating it, and the children couldn't take their eyes off the oil paper package in her hand. Lu Mingui laughed. "Here, freshly baked flatbread. Eat it while it's hot, as you walk." The children took the donkey meat sandwiches and ate them heartily. Lu Mingui also took out a donkey meat sandwich. The surface was baked until crispy and golden brown. When she took a bite, she heard a crunch sound and bits of skin fell off. She quickly caught them with her hands, not wanting to drop them on the ground. Take another bite and you'll find tender yet firm donkey meat, followed by soft and glutinous braised meat, saturated with gravy. The combination of textures is rich yet simple, leaving you with nothing but an exclamation, "So delicious." He added, "No wonder their business is so good, the food tastes great and the portions are generous." Lu Yongkong was driving the mule cart and couldn't free his hands. Song Xiaodong said, "Cousin Yongkong, I'll lead the mule, you eat first." Lu Yongkong shook his head. "You eat first, I'm not hungry yet." Lu Wenli, on the other hand, swallowed a donkey meat sandwich in a few bites and took the reins, saying, "You guys eat, I'll do it." Everyone laughed, and, although they were tired from the journey, they were in a good mood. As they were laughing, someone next to them lashed out with a whip. "Where did this peasant come from? You're blocking the master's way." His words still carried the lingering effects of a hangover, and it was this drunkenness that caused the whip to lash out at an angle, preventing any injury. Song Xiaodong glared over, only to see a fat servant leading a horse with a person swaying on its back, looking down at the Song and Lu families with a disdainful expression. He was about to speak when his mother grabbed his hand. Lu Mingui said softly, "Don't make a fuss, let them leave." Song Xiaodong was indignant, but she still obediently stepped aside. Watching the servant leading the drunken man away, Lu Mingui said, "This servant is a servant of the Sun family, and the man on horseback should be Master Sun." Song Xiaodong was startled at first, then quickly lowered her head to hide her panic. "Let's go." Lu Mingui gave a shout, and no one spoke. He hurriedly left Hejian Prefecture. Chapter 224 Texas Braised Chicken. Leaving Hejian Prefecture, we arrived at Jing Town, passed through Fucheng, and reached Jingzhou. From Jingzhou, we continued our journey. On the 9th day, the group finally saw the city gates of Texas. Song Xiaodong's tense nerves finally relaxed a bit. He looked behind him, then at the city gate in front of him, before asking, "Mother, Hejian Prefecture belongs to Beijili, and Dezhou belongs to Shandong Provincial Administration Commission. Once we're inside Texas, will we be safe?" They traveled day and night without daring to relax for even a moment. The deaths of the Sun family members cast a dark shadow over the entire family, leaving them filled with fear and unease. After a long and tiring journey, it's time to take a good rest. However, Lu Mingui always felt uneasy. It took them 4 days to travel from Hejian Prefecture to Dezhou. "It's not safe yet." She suppressed her thoughts and nodded, saying, "Let's go into the city first." Dezhou is a key hub of the Grand Canal and a vital point at the provincial border, so the checks upon entering the city are extremely strict. Outside the city gate, there were people carrying loads on shoulder poles, driving carts, and carrying baskets. The reasons for entering the city were varied: visiting relatives and friends, doing business, etc. The soldiers guarding the city carefully inspected each one. "From Zhangjiazhuang in the west of the city. What brings you into the city? What is this? Where is your travel permit? Go in, but don't block the way. Hey you guys in the back, hurry up and get your travel permits out, don't delay things." The shouts were so loud they made people's ears ring. Some people handed over what they wanted to sell, saying, "Sir, these are our own dates. Please have a taste." The soldiers refused to accept the offer. "Hurry up and get into the city. The city gates must be closed before sunset. Don't delay." When it came to the Song and Lu families, the soldiers checked them even more carefully, since they were not locals. Lu Wenli tried to slip him some copper coins, but the soldiers refused and instead searched him even more thoroughly. Fortunately, nothing went wrong, and the group was let in. The two families first went to find an inn. As usual, the women stayed in guest rooms, while the men slept in shared dormitories. The price was a few coins more expensive. After settling in, Song Xiaoqiu and Zhao Xinghua discussed going out to buy some needles and thread, and Lu Yongkong went with them. Wang and Shen Juya were looking after the child at the inn. Lu Mingui first inquired with the shop assistant about local specialties in Dezhou and which shops offered fair and affordable prices before heading to the street. Texas is different. Unlike her hometown, where there are big markets only on the 1st and 15th of the lunar month, here it's lively every day. The waiter said that Dezhou's braised chicken, the official steamed buns, and Daliu noodles are all famous local delicacies. In addition to bringing one for her own family, Lu Mingui also bought another one for Lu Yunxi and Li Ziyan. However, upon arriving at Guanlin residence, they only saw Lu Yunxi, not Li Ziyan. She asked, "Why haven't I seen Ziyan in so long? Has the child been busy lately?" Lu Yunxi smiled and said, "Busy. He went abroad. There are some things the company needs him to handle. Now that my son is grown up, he should take on some responsibilities. Besides, now that our ancestors can come to the house, there's no need for someone to stay at the market all the time." She essentially took over her son's job, staying at the Guanlin residence to look after the ancestors. Lu Mingui asked in surprise, "Go abroad? To the west? How do you usually get there?" "By boat, like the eunuch Zheng Bao." Now it was Lu Yunxi's turn to be surprised. "You know about the west." Although she was surprised, she did not mean to belittle her. Therefore, Lu Mingui did not feel uncomfortable and joked, "How novel. Can't I know about the west? Don't underestimate me." He further explained, "Actually, I saw it in a picture book called The Popular Romance of the Western Voyages of Eunuch Sanbao, which is quite interesting. It is said that Emperor Yongle appointed Baifeng as his national advisor and sent him on voyages to the Western Ocean with Zhenghe in search of treasures, and they received the help of the gods. She said some of it, but I can't remember much of it." Lu Yunxi then realized what was happening. She almost forgot that vernacular literature in the Ming Dynasty was the pinnacle of ancient short stories, which promoted cultural dissemination. Since the old woman was curious, she naturally had to answer her question. "Now we can travel abroad by boat or by plane. When can I take you on a plane trip? You must have never been on an airplane before, right?" She asked the question, then chuckled to herself, laughing at herself for asking such a pointless question. Her ancestors certainly had never been on an airplane. Lu Mingui became even more curious. "An airplane? Like a kite? Or like a flying crow?" Upon hearing this, Lu Yunxi quickly opened her phone and showed her the video. In the video, an airplane taxied for a moment before taking off into the sky, which startled Lu Mingui so much that she exclaimed, "God! It looks terrifying. Can anyone even sit in there?" Lu Yunxi nodded. "Sure, I'll take you abroad sometime." Lu Mingui waved her hands repeatedly. "No, I'm not going anywhere. I'm perfectly fine here." As the two chatted and laughed, Lu Mingui took out the braised chicken and steamed buns she had bought this time and handed them over. "Try them and see if they're good. You said the donkey meat sandwiches were delicious last time, so you might like these too. This is Texas-style braised chicken and the officer's steamed buns. I originally wanted to let Zion try it too, but unfortunately he's not here." Lu Yunxi was very happy. Since her son wasn't around, she could eat more. He stared excitedly at the braised chicken. Last time, she saw a baked bun wrapped in rough oil paper on the dining table and realized that it came from the Ming Dynasty. She couldn't wait to try one, and it tasted pretty good. What was even more exciting than the taste itself was that she was actually eating food from hundreds of years ago. Lu Yunxi suppressed her excitement and first opened the braised chicken wrapped in oil paper. The braised chicken was golden and shiny, with a fragrant aroma that made one's mouth water. Just as she was about to take action, a question suddenly came to her mind. If I remember correctly, many local chronicles say that Dezhou braised chicken was created during the reign of Emperor Kangxi of the Qing dynasty. There is also the official's bun, which is said to have originated during the Daoguang era of the Qing dynasty. It later became famous during the Guangxu era when Zhang Zhidong presented it to Empress Dowager Cixi. Lu Yunxi never believed that with thousands of years of cultural heritage and countless delicacies, how could delicious food only be created in the Qing dynasty? Looking at the braised chicken and steamed buns in front of her now, her guess has been largely confirmed. That is, some historical facts are not necessarily correct, at least these foods have existed for a long time. If one day, before she could think about it, Lu Mingui said, "Take your time eating, I have something to do." Lu Yunxi nodded. "Go ahead and do what you need to do. I'll take care of things here. Tu Antoine and Yuan are being good, don't worry." A balance was maintained between the two of them, neither of them asked questions, and the other did not speak, resulting in an extremely harmonious relationship. This is also why Lu Mingui felt extremely comfortable being with Lu Yunxi. She smiled gratefully and returned to the Ming Dynasty. The family was originally scheduled to change boats in Jining Prefecture, but the unexpected turn of events was due to the Sun family. After thinking for a moment, Lu Mingui inquired along the way and headed towards the dock. Wouldn't it be safer to change ships in Texas? Chapter 225 The Chase. Before Lu Mingui even reached the dock, he could see large areas of the dried-up riverbed exposed in the distance. The once bustling dock is now deserted, with only a few scattered people. More than a dozen cargo boats were floating on the water, almost running aground. More boats were towed ashore, and the silt on their hulls dried out in the sun. She was dumbfounded. "Can we even take a boat here?" A man next to her glanced at her and said, "You want to take a boat? This little bit of water isn't enough to make a boat move. It all depends on manpower. How far can it be pulled? Let's just stick to the official route." Upon hearing this, Lu Mingui felt a chill in his heart and had no choice but to abandon his idea of taking the boat and return to the inn. "I got up early the next day as usual, ate breakfast, and then hurriedly set off. Since we cannot travel by waterway yet, we will still have to take the official road today." Once outside the city gate, everyone except Lu Mingui relaxed a bit, chatting as they walked, their steps becoming much lighter. Song Xiaodong asked, "Mother, can we get to Wuchang today?" "Once we arrive in Wuchang, we'll head to Linqing." Lu Mingui thought about the markings on the map and then nodded, "Yes. The sooner we get there, the sooner we can feel at ease." She called Song Xiaoqiu to her side. "Do you still remember what your mother taught you last night?" Last night, while Shen Juya was asleep with Man, she took out the cartridge flamethrower and taught Song Xiaoqiu how to use it. "I bought 2 cartridge flamethrowers, just in time to give my daughter one for self-defense." Song Xiaoqiu opened her big eyes, nodded first, and then asked, "Mother still feels unsafe?" "Yes," Lu Mingui said, looking into the distance, "my heart is pounding inexplicably. It's been like this for the past 2 days, so we should be careful. If something really happens, you can barely protect yourself with that. Remember, don't panic." Song Xiaoqiu hummed in agreement and followed her mother with heavy steps. This stretch of road is relatively flat, with no mountains. The plains stretch as far as the eye can see, and the crops in the fields have all been harvested, leaving only the scorched yellow earth. In the distance, there were occasional villages, and in front and behind, there were traveling merchants or villagers hurrying along the way. In the latter half of the day, the streets became increasingly deserted. The sky had been overcast for a long time, but there was no sign of rain. Lu Mingui felt increasingly uneasy and said to Lu Yongkong, "Let's walk faster." No sooner had the words been spoken than the sound of rapid hoofbeats came from afar. A group of people riding tall horses galloped from the direction of Dezhou, their hoofs kicking up yellow dust. Dust filled the sky, and from a distance, it looked like a huge, ferocious beast, forcefully obscuring half the sky. In just a few breaths, a group of people had already approached, quickly dispersed, and surrounded the Song and Lu families. There were about 10 people, all dressed in short-sleeved shirts, and they were all skilled martial artists. The leader was someone Lu Mingui had met in Hejian Prefecture. He was slightly overweight and had a hooked nose. Who else could it be but Master Sun? Beside him on horseback was a man with eyes as sinister as a venomous snake. Sun Fang, mounted on his horse, swept his cold gaze across the crowd, filled with hatred. Song Xiaodong clearly recognized the man as the patriarch of the Sun family. He quietly shielded everyone behind him. Although their shoulders are not broad enough, they are brave enough. Meanwhile, Song Xiaoqiu quietly reached into the basket on her back, where her mother had given her a portable flamethrower. The already sparse pedestrians on the road ran even faster, and in the blink of an eye, only the Song and Lu families remained. Lu Wenli did not know that this man was Master Sun. Although he knew that the visitor was not friendly, he stepped forward and questioned, "Sir, why are you stopping us for no reason?" Sun Fang sneered, "For no reason? Then I'll ask you, why did you kill my wife for no reason?" Lu Wenli choked, realizing that something was wrong. It turned out that the matter had been exposed. They were so well hidden, I never expected them to be exposed so quickly. Lu Mingui had a premonition. Many people witnessed the argument that took place in front of the Shunlai in that day. By following the clues, the truth will be uncovered sooner or later. Besides, they are a whole family, so they are very easy to identify. Right now, the Sun family didn't choose to report to the authorities, but instead brought people directly to us, which made Lu Mingui even more aware of one thing. That means the Sun family wants to settle this matter themselves. If they were arrested by the authorities, at least the young women and children might survive, but if they fell into the hands of the Sun family, they would be left with no one to turn to for help. Sure enough, Sun Fang sneered again, pointing at the crowd with his riding whip and saying, "Do you think you can escape?" He grew angrier and angrier as he spoke, and even the horse beneath him became restless. "You lowly wretch, how dare you harm my wife? You deserve to die, I will tear you to pieces." A fat servant riding a horse behind him, emboldened by his master's power, said, "Our master and mistress are known throughout Fujian Prefecture for their deep affection for each other. Normally, the master wouldn't even dare to harm a hair on the mistress's head, but you two are utterly audacious." A gloating expression appeared on his face. Lu Mingui then realized that she had seen this chubby servant before. He was the one who was talking to the skinny servant at the city gate about how Master Sun and the courtesan were getting along very well. Now they're talking about a loving couple. That's utter nonsense. Just as she was pondering a solution, Song Xiaodong suddenly spoke up. "Who are you talking about? Have you mistaken me for someone else? We are just ordinary people visiting relatives, we wouldn't dare to hurt anyone." As he spoke, his other hand secretly reached behind his back for a bow and arrow. Seeing that he still dared to be stubborn, Sun Fang simply stopped worrying. After all, these unarmed old people, women and children could still escape. He raised his hand and exclaimed, "They really won't shed a tear until they see the coffin. Guards, bring out the lady's remains." Then someone opened a black cloth bundle, and several blackened human bones fell out. With the human bones falling out, the Song and Lu families completely lost hope. As expected, the other party did not speak without reason, they had gathered sufficient evidence before coming. Seeing their dejected expressions, Sun Fang's eyes gleamed with a hint of smugness. These people, are they only now realizing they're afraid? Where were they all this time? Sighing at this thought, Sun Fang recalled that he and Madame Feng had once been very loving, but ever since their daughter died, Madame Feng had become a completely different person. They're constantly causing trouble, but the Feng family is rich and powerful, making a divorce impossible. In truth, I should thank these peasants. Thanks to them, the gloomy and sinister Feng Zhaozhao was killed. Otherwise, who knows how much longer this terrible woman would live. Without this woman, he could remarry and have children, and he could also bring his mistresses into his household. I'm so happy, I no longer have to be stuck with a sickly man, which is why I'm 30 years old and still childless. He glanced at his brother-in-law beside him, forcefully suppressed a smile, and pointed at the human bones on the ground, shouting, "Look, what's this? You think you can destroy the evidence and I won't be able to find out? HMPH, if you don't want anyone to know, then don't do it in the first place. Today is your death day." Chapter 226 Waiting to Die. As soon as he said that, the children were so frightened that they started to cry. The adults quickly hugged and comforted the children. Zhao Xinghua trembled with fear, wondering whether she should beg for mercy or not. At other times, she thought that if her aunt really had supernatural powers, she certainly wouldn't watch them die. She looked at her 3 biological children but didn't dare to make a sound. Lu Yongkong stepped forward and stood beside Song Xiaodong, saying to the Sun family, "Do you have no respect for the law? That woman clearly had malicious intentions and wanted to kill us first. Not only that, she actually wants to turn living people into dolls, she's absolutely heartless." Before Sun Fang could speak, a young man next to him said in a sinister tone, "So what? It's a great blessing and a tremendous fortune for that child that my sister has taken a liking to him." Lu Mingui looked over and realized that this man was Mrs. Sun's younger brother. He also looked pale and like a ghost. She then spoke up, "Good fortune. I think it's bad luck. Our family was just trying to travel properly when we ran into ghosts like you. We've brought this trouble upon ourselves for no reason." Her voice was firm and resolute, which enraged the young man, who pointed at the crowd and shouted, "Kill them all. Keep those children alive and use them to make dolls for my sister." No sooner had the words been spoken than people began to move. But they weren't from the Sun family. It was Song Xiaodong, who, like a skilled hunter, was ready to draw his bow and shoot the moment he saw his prey. At the same time, Lu Mingui slipped into the White House. It wasn't about running away or hiding, but about getting something. When she first visited Mi Farm, she found a bow and arrow that was used for decoration. She asked Xu Yang if the bow and arrow could be used, and Xu Yang said it could. She had just glanced around and saw that the Sun family members were all on horseback. Unless she got very close, her flamethrower could only reach them, but in that case, she herself would likely get injured. They were either trampled by horses or slashed by thugs from the Sun family. That's why she thought of this bow and arrow. The time difference was enough for her to obtain the bow and arrows, and before anyone in the farm even noticed, she returned to the wilderness outside Texas City. At this moment, Song Xiaodong had just drawn his bowstring taut and was aiming at the fat servant who was closest to him. The fat servant had already raised his long sword, spurred his horse forward, and was ready to strike without mercy. The arrow shot out with a whoosh, its sharpness piercing the air. In the end, Song Xiaodong was one step ahead. Then, reflected in the gleaming blade were the fat servant's wide-eyed disbelief. He fell straight off the horse and crashed heavily to the ground. The horse lost control and galloped wildly into the distance. Before the game even started, one person was lost, a turn of events that greatly surprised Sun Fang and Feng Ping. Feng Ping complained, weren't they supposed to be just ordinary farmers? How come they know how to shoot arrows? She then questioned, brother-in-law, didn't you see he was carrying a bow and arrows? Sun Fang hesitated, but he had seen it. But he thought it was just a child's game, never expecting that this young boy would be such a good archer. He couldn't help but curse his brother-in-law under his breath, why is he being so fierce? She looks just like that dead woman, she's disgusting. But he said, maybe it's just a coincidence. He doesn't look like someone who's trained in martial arts. Besides, we have a lot of people with us, what are we afraid of? Charge them all, kill them all. He beckoned, and the servants, who had initially retreated due to the fat servant's death, surrounded him again. Lu Wenli and Lu Yongkong had no bows and arrows, so they held up shovels and confronted the thugs on horseback. Song Xiaoqiu was looking for an opportunity to use the cartridge flamethrower. The remaining Wang family members huddled together behind the mule cart, trembling with fear. Lu Mingui tested the bowstring and aimed it at Feng Ping. It wasn't that she thought of capturing the king first to catch the thief, but rather that this person, just like Mrs. Sun, made her feel both dangerous and disgusted. However, Feng Ping was hiding behind the servants, with only half of his body showing, making it difficult to make a move. Song Xiaodong only had 3 arrows, while his side had 5 arrows, and the opposing side had 12 men. If they could kill them with one shot, they would be in danger. But she had no time to think, as the other party was coming on strong and full of killing intent. Lu Mingui exhaled, drew the bowstring hard, aimed, slightly lowered his wrist, released the string, and the arrow flew straight towards Feng Ping. Unfortunately, the servant in front of Feng Ping blocked the arrow with his knife, and the arrowhead stuck into the ground. Lu Mingui did not give up and continued to shoot a second arrow. The arrow grazed Feng Ping's ear, the strong wind grazing his skin and causing a burning pain. Feng Ping was also furious. They all know how to use arrows. Is this really a peasant? Or was it someone in disguise? Unable to contain his rage, he shouted hoarsely, ignore everyone else, kill that old woman. Quick, cut off her head first. Whoever can kill her, I, the young master, will reward them with 5 taels of silver. Upon hearing this, the servants disregarded everyone else and spurred their horses toward Lu Mingui. Looking at the menacing group, Lu Mingui felt a chill run down his spine. It seemed he was going to die here today. But the more she did this, the more resentful she became. She didn't want to die, and even if she had to, she didn't want to die here, at the hands of these people. Could one escape by hiding inside the belly of the White House? She couldn't do it. What was the point of living if she abandoned her family? No, even if she dies, she'll take someone down with her. Thinking of this, she seemed to have gained countless strength in her hands. He raised his hand and aimed at Feng Ping again, thinking, let this guy be my scapegoat. Because the servants all came to attack Lu Mingui, Feng Ping was left without any guards. Lu Mingui steadied himself, drew his bow fully, and shot an arrow at Feng Ping. She didn't have any particularly advanced skills. This arrow, filled only with resentment and hatred, was surprisingly accurate, piercing directly through Feng Ping's heart. Feng Ping felt a chill in his heart and looked at Lu Mingui in the distance in disbelief. In this day and age, even an old woman can shoot someone to death. I must be dreaming. But when he looked down, he clearly saw an arrow deeply embedded in his heart, with only a small section of the fletching showing. Behind him, the blood from the arrowhead was still warm, dripping onto the dust. On the other side, Song Xiaodong's arrow missed its mark, wounding one of his servants, while his other arrow struck Sun Fang, pulling him off his horse, though he was not yet dead. Seizing the opportunity, Song Xiaoqiu began to breathe fire at Sun Fang. Sun Fang immediately rolled on the ground in pain. Lu Wenli's shovel was chopped off, leaving him with only half a wooden stick. "Uncle, let me help you." The speaker was Song Xiaodong. Lu Yongkong, on the other hand, shoved one of the men off his horse, and they were locked in a fierce battle. The scene was chaotic, and no one paid attention to Lu Mingui. Lu Mingui shot his last arrow at the nearest servant, but it only hit the servant's arm. The remaining 3 servants rushed over at the same time, their broadswords gleaming coldly. With no arrows left, all that's left is to wait for death. Chapter 227 General. But Lu Mingui didn't want to wait to die, she refused to accept her fate. He immediately reached for the flamethrower, thinking he could burn as many people as possible. Even if it doesn't kill someone, it can cripple them. Anyway, killing that pretty boy earlier was enough. Killing even one more is a win. Just as they were about to make their move, a whooshing sound came from afar, carrying with it an immense force. She looked closely and realized it was a white-shafted spear. The spear tip gleamed coldly, moving so fast that no one could react in time. With a soft thud, it pierced directly through the chests of 2 servants. The 2 servants' hands, which were holding knives, froze at the same time, their faces contorted in pain. Lu Mingui was startled by the shot and froze on the spot, feeling as if his hands and feet were out of control and he could not move. At that moment, a black steed appeared amidst the billowing dust. A woman of about 50 years old sat upright on the horse. She was tall and dressed in a blue military uniform, with a red cloak swaying in the wind. Although his temples were streaked with gray, his eyes were sharp and piercing. His energy and spirit are several times better than the average person. She held the reins with one hand to steer the horse, while reaching out with the other to grab the gun barrel. With a sudden burst of strength, she pulled out the gun, the tip instantly drawing out a considerable amount of blood. Just as the last servant was about to flee, the woman twisted her wrist and thrust the tip of her spear into his heart. A few drops of scalding blood splattered on Lu Mingui's face. She couldn't help but close her eyes for a moment. When she opened them again, she saw that the woman had already nimbly jumped off her horse and was walking towards Lu Mingui, dragging her spear. She laughed and said, "Did I scare you?" Lu Mingui nodded subconsciously, but then quickly shook her head, "No, no." In both her past and present lives, whether in the Ming Dynasty or in the future, this was the first time she had ever seen such a dashing woman. She knew it was because she lacked experience. But this did not diminish the shock surging within her, which also gave rise to admiration and envy. If I had such skills, why would I be forced into this situation? The woman was tall, and Lu Mingui had to look up at her. After a long while, she finally realized what was happening and hurriedly knelt down, saying, "My benefactor, thank you so much for saving my life." The other members of the Song and Lu families, who were originally standing there in shock, all knelt down upon seeing this. "Thank you so much for saving my mother. My benefactor, your kindness and virtue are unforgettable." Everyone was talking at once, and each person was kowtowing more firmly than the last. The man reached out and helped Lu Mingui up, praising, "I saw that your archery skills were quite good, and most importantly, you were fearless in the face of danger. They certainly have courage and insight." Then, with a hint of regret, he said, "It's a pity that although you are a promising talent, you didn't start training in martial arts from a young age, otherwise you would definitely be able to fight on the battlefield. It's not too late, really. Why don't you come with me to fight on the battlefield?" Lu Mingui then realized that the woman in front of her was actually a general. He was even more dumbfounded when she invited him to go to the battlefield. She never imagined she could go to the battlefield and kill the enemy. Could she really go? But she couldn't even ride a horse. In the village, people like her were considered to have one foot in the grave. Seeing that she couldn't answer, the female general laughed heartily. Never mind, never mind. Then, he brought up the matter at hand. "I was just passing through Hejian Prefecture when I overheard someone talking about this. A mere official dared to allow his wife to commit murder, killing many young children. Some people went to report the case, but he turned around and framed them, causing many families to be destroyed and people to die as a result. I went to the Sun residence and only then did I learn that they had come to arrest people. What are you doing here? Song Xiaodong watched the female general from the side, already extremely excited. Who wouldn't be excited to see such good skills? Upon hearing the question, he volunteered to step forward and said, "General, please let me explain." He recounted the events that began in Shang County and continued. Until now, she even recounted her entire family history. The female general patted him on the shoulder. "Good lad, in that case, the lives and futures of your entire family are all in your hands. From now on, you must practice martial arts diligently and never slack off." Considering that this was the only male left in the family, she did not mention sending him to the battlefield. Song Xiaodong became even more excited, standing ramrod straight. "I will definitely not let you down. In the future, I will protect my family and never let anyone bully my family again." The female general laughed heartily, then hugged Man tightly in her arms and said with a smile, "Little baby, were you just crying? Don't cry, this is not your fault. You need to learn to protect yourself. If anyone dares to mess with you, just punch them." Man stared blankly at her, her voice soft and sweet. Fight back. That's right, fight back. To deal with bad guys, you have to fight them back hard. If you back down even a little, they'll dare to bully you tenfold. So we must fight, and we must fight hard. Seeing the female general say this, Man lowered her head and said, but I'm still young, and I'm a girl." The general laughed even louder. "What's wrong with being young? You'll grow up someday. The most important thing is not to look down on yourself or be restrained just because you are a woman. Look, I am a woman, and I can still go to the battlefield to kill the enemy and defend my territory. My daughter-in-law is also a woman, and she can also behead the enemy and make great achievements." Not far away, a young woman rode on horseback, dressed in the same military uniform. "This must be the general's daughter-in-law," she added. "The path in this world is one that you have to walk yourself. As for weapons, it doesn't matter who wields them, if you wield them well, you are their master." Man's eyes grew brighter and brighter. In fact, her grandmother had said similar things to her before, but none of them had ever shaken her as much as the female general before her. Actually, it wasn't just her, everyone else was very excited. Even Lu Mingui felt that she was already quite old, but at this moment she felt excited and seemed to have become young again. With a serious little face, she said, "Yes, I want to fight bad guys and achieve great things in the future." As she spoke, she took off the red string from her wrist, from which hung a bell carved from a peach pit, and carefully handed it to the general. "General, this was carved for me by my father before he went to war. Could you please help me take it to the battlefield? My father went to fight in the north and never came back. If Dad sees little Belle, he'll know that Man is waiting for him to come home." The general remained silent for a moment, then quietly accepted the gift. "Okay, I'll take it with you. Your father will definitely know how you feel." She wrapped a red rope with bells around a layer of her armor, which was quite unique. Then he looked at the corpses. Everyone else was dead, but Sun Fang was still half dead. The two families thought she would pursue the murder, but to their surprise, the female general kicked Sun Fang, yelling, "Coward! Just because they have some money, they're turning their knives on their fellow countrymen. They have no other skills, but they use all their tricks on the common people. Why didn't you go into battle and kill those treacherous dogs from the later Jin?" She was incredibly strong, and with one kick, she knocked the already half-dead Sun Fang unconscious again. Whether out of pity for the family or moved by their spirit of unity and resistance, she left behind a token before leaving. "This token is for you. Although I cannot make you rich and powerful, I can at least ensure your family's safety in Suzhou Prefecture." By the time Lu Mingui received the token, the female general had already mounted her horse and left. Lu Mingui then realized what was happening and hurriedly asked, "May I ask your honorable name, benefactor?" The female general's cheerful voice carried on the wind, "This general is Qin Liangyu." Chapter 228 Chartering a Boat. The crowd remained stunned for a long time, staring blankly at General Qin's departing figure. Qin Liangyu. Lu Wenli was the first to speak, his eyes filled with disbelief. "Is she the female general who quelled the Cheyenne rebellion and later fought a bloody battle at Hunhei?" Lu Mingui really didn't know, so she pressed on, "Big brother, tell me more." The rest of the family members were equally curious, "We want to hear it too." Lu Wenli shook his head, "I only heard it from merchants. Who has time to talk about this on a Thursday? Pointing to the corpses scattered on the ground, he said, let's get rid of these while no one's around. I'll tell you all about it when we get to Suzhou. The ground was a mess, with corpses lying scattered about and blood still dripping. The stench of blood wafted to everyone's noses. Even now, Zhao Xinghua is still hiding behind the mule cart with several children in her arms, too afraid to come out because she is terrified of the dead. The group then let her continue watching the child, while the others removed the valuables, knives, and swords from the dead bodies. I didn't take any of my personal belongings. They did manage to find 30 or 40 taels of silver. As for the horses, there were originally 12, but some ran away and some died. The 4 remaining horses were temporarily put away by Lu Mingui. The body is not to be left unattended. General Qin said before he left that someone in Hejian Prefecture would handle it. Anyway, let's just leave the corpse to rot in the wilderness for now. The token left by General Qin was also placed in the White House. Song Xiaodong said that once they arrived in Suzhou Prefecture, they would enshrine the token. Lu Mingui thought it made a lot of sense. General Qin was her savior. Furthermore, the killing of Mrs. Sun and her entourage had left both families somewhat fearful. Although the other party had provoked them first, killing was an extremely terrifying thing for them. Especially for Man, after this incident, she was like a frostbitten weed, all wilted and listless. But when General Qin hugged her and said some encouraging words, the child immediately perked up and was no longer afraid of the corpse. Lu Mingui felt that General Qin was like a god. It not only resolved their immediate crisis, but also gave the family more to look forward to in the future. After tidying everything up, the group hurried to Wuchang overnight. The rest of the journey went relatively smoothly. There was nothing else to do along the way but travel and eat. Wuchang's spiral pancakes, Linqing's tofu, shumai, and 8-bowl feast. The local specialties of Dongchangfu, guanda, a type of fried dough, smoked chicken, and fruit. Stewed fish in Zhongzhou town. They continued all the way to Jining Prefecture. Jining Prefecture is the capital of the Grand Canal and the location of the Grand Canal Governor's office, so it was naturally extremely prosperous. The city was bustling with people, shoulder to shoulder. Lu Mingui plans to rest here for 2 days, allowing his family to get some rest, and also to inquire about waterways. After settling her family in, she took Song Xiaodong out of the inn and, after asking around, arrived at the canal wharf. The dock was bustling with noise. The porters carried the goods from the boat ashore, and the goods were piled up like small mountains in the warehouses on the shore. The person in charge was counting the goods, his abacus clicking away. The shoreline is lined with all sorts of shops, taverns, teahouses, general stores, and restaurants, one after another. Many people walked through it, and the cries of vendors rose and fell. Various smells, along with the moisture from the Grand Canal, assaulted Lu Mingui's senses. Looking at the canal again, the water level here is acceptable compared to Hejian Prefecture, at least it's navigable. On the river, cargo boats came and went in an endless stream. Large cargo ships carried grain or porcelain, while smaller cargo ships carried cloth and tea. The smaller awning boats were used by merchants who would shuttle between the larger boats, selling food and drinks. Although it was early winter, there were many boatmen standing in the shallow water, shirtless, dragging their boats to the shore while shouting work songs. The water level is not low. Lu Mingui breathed a sigh of relief, at least the boat could sail. Both the people and the mules were exhausted from the journey, so traveling by water would be much easier. She said, Xiaodong, let's ask around and see if there are any boats going to Yangzhou Prefecture. He then instructed, go take another look inside the dock. There are many people here, be careful of thieves. Song Xiaodong stared intently at everything around her, and only after hearing this did she murmur, Mother, there are so many people here. It's even more lively than Hejian Prefecture. He patted his chest and said, don't worry, Mother. I only have 2 coins on me. No one can steal them. The next moment, he was stunned. Where are my 2 coins? They were here when I left. He frantically searched his pockets, but the pocket where he kept his money was already empty. Looking around, everyone seemed to be in a hurry, and none of them looked like a petty thief. Mom, the money is really gone. Song Xiaodong was so anxious that tears were about to fall. He had never encountered anything like this before. Lu Mingui comforted him, fortunately, it's only 2 coins, not 200. Just consider it a lesson learned. This is our first time in such a crowded place, so it's always better to be careful. Song Xiaodong cursed, if I catch which petty thief it is, I'll chop his hand off. The little incident did not affect Lu Minggui's mood. She asked an old official at the dock, "Old man, is the waterway still smooth these days if I take a boat south?" "It wasn't a wasted effort. I paid 2 coins as a bribe." The old official replied happily, "You come from the north. Are you experiencing a drought where you are?" Song Xiaodong asked in surprise, "How did you know?" The old official stroked his beard smugly and said, "I've been at the docks for 40 years, dealing with people from all over the country. What don't I know? These days, many people from the north are heading south." "Where are you headed?" Lu Mingui didn't intend to say much, only shaking her head. "I haven't decided yet, let's go to Huai'an Prefecture first." He then asked, "But I don't know if this ship is safe to sail. Is the road clear ahead? Are there still sections where boats cannot pass?" The old official chuckled, "You all came out early, so you're all safe. But it's hard to say what will happen next, as the water level has dropped somewhat in this section." Reassured, Lu Mingui, guided by the old official, found the broker and inquired about the ship's journey. The broker, accustomed to such things, directly stated the ship type and price. There are 3 types of ships. The smallest boat was the one used for lessons. Chartering it cost 8 taels of silver, excluding meals. Unfortunately, such a boat is unsafe. Not only is it too small for 2 families to fit, but the boat is also too light. According to local custom, the grain transport boats were the largest and also the safest. It carries both cargo and passengers, but the speed is slow, it can only leave when the ship is full. The one that suited Lu Mingui's taste the best was a small sailboat. Although small boats are more expensive, usually costing 15 taels of silver to charter, you can lie down, sleep, and cook on board. Lu Mingui made the decision himself and chose a small boat. The broker then went to find the ship owner and discussed the matter face to face. The boat owner was a man in his 50s, with dark skin, regular features, and a fairly honest appearance. "Old Luo, this family is from Baoding Prefecture. I have checked their travel permits and there are no problems. Her family wants to charter a boat to Huai'an Prefecture. The price will remain the same as before, 15 taels. Do you want to do this job?" Chapter 229 Dried Cork Rice. The man called Old Hunchback lowered his head and thought for a while before saying, "Could you give me 2 more taels of silver?" Before Lu Mingui could speak, the broker became anxious. "Old Hunchback, I only help you out because you're an honest person and your family is in trouble. You're quite something, asking for an extra 2 taels of silver right off the bat. Now, because the canal is shallow, boat fares have already increased by 10%. How dare you add more money? If this continues, you'll ruin the reputation of our brokerage." Song Xiaodong chimed in, "Yeah, that's really unfair. Do you think you're the only one with a boat at the dock?" The two talked for a while, but the old hunchback lowered his head again and remained silent for a long time. Lu Mingui watched for a while and could tell that this man was an honest person. But if someone is always so sullen and listless, and can't make a sound even after being hit 3 times, who can stand it? "Just say what's on your mind," she said to the broker, "please find another one for us. I think this boat owner seems to be having some difficulties, perhaps it's inconvenient for him to go to Huai'an Prefecture." Upon hearing her say this, the broker knew that the customer was probably somewhat dissatisfied. He nodded. "Please wait a moment, I'll go find another one." The old hunchback then stammered, "Guest, please wait. I can't refuse you even if you ask for 2 more taels of silver. Don't be fooled by the high water level here, it's still relatively unobstructed. But at this rate, there will definitely be sections along the way where the water level is not high enough, and we will have to pull the boats by manpower. We'll have to take a couple more boatmen with us. I'm not asking for this money for myself, I'm asking for it for the boatmen." Song Xiaodong asked in surprise, but the old official at the dock said that the ships have been sailing smoothly these days, and there haven't been any problems. "How do you know that the water level is low in some areas?" The old hunchback smiled bitterly. "I've been sailing on this canal for almost 40 years, and this is the first time I've seen such a drought. When has it ever gone this long without rain before? It's only a matter of time before this section of the canal runs dry. Actually, I could have kept this from you beforehand and just asked you to pay more when we got to the place where the boats couldn't sail. Whether we add more or less is entirely up to us, isn't it? But I'm not that kind of person. We agreed on the price beforehand to avoid any arguments on the way." After a moment's thought, the broker said, "Guest, the old hunchback is actually right. If we agree on it beforehand and have it in writing, everyone can have peace of mind. According to my estimate, the price will rise further, even to 20 or 30 taels. He sighed again. A few days ago, the price of boats from Fujian Prefecture to here increased by a full 50%, and even so, everyone is still scrambling to take the boat. Look at these past few days, no ships can get through over there. Lu Mingui could tell that the old hunchback was telling the truth, while the broker was somewhat agreeing with him. However, this is only to be expected. She was in a hurry to leave, but after a moment's thought, she agreed. The broker and the old hunchback then took them to see the boat. It was a ship that was about 70% new, neither too big nor too small, and could carry more than 30 people. The entire hull was coated with tung oil, giving it a glossy sheen and indicating excellent maintenance. The cabin was spotless, with bamboo mats and a separate cooking area with all the necessary firewood, rice, and stove equipment, all neatly arranged. Lu Mingui seemed quite satisfied. As long as he could cook, it would be good. Eating some hot food along the way would make him feel more comfortable. The old hunchback said again, "Guest, we don't provide meals on our boat, but we do provide you with hot water and firewood. You can cook your own meals inside this fire chamber. If you don't want to cook for yourself, you can add some money and we'll cook for you." Lu Mingui didn't want to eat with them, since she had her own house in the market, and too much contact with them wasn't good, so she quickly declined. "We bring our own food and eat it ourselves." The old hunchback nodded. "All right, it's already late today. I'll check the boat again tomorrow and inform the boatman. Everything is ready. Shall we depart first thing the day after tomorrow morning?" Lu Mingui nodded. Yes, the sooner the better. The two parties then drew up a written agreement with the broker. The agreed price was 17 taels of silver, including miscellaneous expenses, but not meals. Pay a deposit of 5 taels first, 7 taels during the journey, and the balance upon disembarking. Having chartered the boat, Lu Mingui felt much more relaxed. After leaving the brokerage, he took Song Xiaodong to buy some food. The mother and daughter were starving after traveling all this way, and when they were hungry, everything looked delicious. Before they even left the dock, Song Xiaodong asked, "Mom, what's that?" He was pointing to a load on a shoulder pole by the roadside. At one end of the carrying pole was a small-mouthed, large-bellied jar, with a small fire burning underneath. Large chunks of bright red pork belly were simmering inside the jar. On the other side was a jar of rice, as well as rolled pancakes, eggs, and other items. Lu Mingui had never seen one before either. The mother and daughter stopped in their tracks, staring intently at the earthenware pot that resembled both a water vat and a jar. Then, someone's stomach made a gurgling sound. "This is our famous braised pork rice from Jining Prefecture. Would you like a bowl?" When the young porter saw them stop and call out to him, he shouted even more enthusiastically, "Such a big bowl of rice, only 10 coins. Add an egg, and it'll only cost 12 coins, enough to fill you up and satisfy your cravings. Oh, and here are 2 fritters for you. Look, they're eating my family's braised pork rice." I saw a group of porters, some squatting and some standing, holding large bowls and shoveling rice into their mouths. The mother and daughter were tempted and quickly said, "2 bowls, please." The porter was quick and efficient. He first took out an earthenware bowl, filled it with coarse rice, and even pressed it down to make it firm. Then he took out a trembling piece of meat with alternating layers of fat and lean meat from an earthenware jar and placed it on top of the rice. Finally, he ladled a spoonful of soup over the rice. The brown rice was instantly soaked in the meat juices, making it look incredibly tempting. "Be careful, your braised pork rice is hot." The mother and daughter each carried a bowl, and since there were no tables or chairs, they found a corner to squat and eat, just like the porters. Lu Mingui took a mouthful of rice and immediately squinted her eyes at the aroma. The originally coarse and chewy brown rice, soaked in meat broth, became softer and moister, smoother, and was swallowed after only a few chews. The deeper you eat, the richer the flavor becomes. The braised pork belly is incredibly tender and flavorful. The fatty parts are not greasy at all, and the lean parts are not dry. It's absolutely delicious when eaten with brown rice. No wonder so many people love to eat here. Look at the business, it's doing very well. Seeing that they were enjoying their meal, the porter was also pleased. "Are you two from out of town?" In addition to braised pork rice, Jining Prefecture also has a soup called a san tang, that is worth trying. San tang. It was something Lu Mingui had never heard of before, but since she was already there, she might as well give it a try. Chapter 230 Cotton-padded clothes. After the two finished eating the braised pork rice, they felt warm all over and their stomachs were satisfied. Night had fallen. As the mother and daughter walked towards the inn, a cool breeze blew, dispelling the warmth that had just risen on their bodies. Song Xiaodong rubbed his nose and tightened his tattered coat, saying, "Mother, it's still quite cold today." "Yes," Lu Mingui nodded. "Mother thought that Jining Prefecture was in the south and shouldn't be this cold. Who would have thought it wouldn't be much better than our place? It's probably because of the strong wind, it's near the river, so it's very windy." "Ah, it's windy, damp, and cold. It's really uncomfortable," Song Xiaodong muttered. "Then hurry back, it won't be cold there." After walking through the cobblestone street, they arrived at the Gaosheng Inn and then went back to their rooms separately. The guest room wasn't cold, and Song Xiaoqiu hurriedly came forward to ask, "Mother, have you eaten? Have you found the boat?" Lu Mingui nodded. "We've eaten, and the boat is all booked." They then asked Song Xiaoqiu if she had eaten, and she naturally replied that she had. "My eldest uncle and aunt are both resting. I'm waiting for my mother to come back. You should go to sleep too," Lu Mingui said, explaining the rest of the itinerary. "The ship won't leave until early the day after tomorrow. If there's anything I need to buy tomorrow, I can go and do it." After her daughter and daughter-in-law had gone to sleep, Lu Mingui went to the White House. She had just thought that since Jining Prefecture was so cold, the boat must be even colder sailing on the canal. "The padded jackets worn by my family members are so thin they're almost see-through. They've been worn for several years, and only a thin layer of cotton is left inside. When the wind blows, it goes straight to their bones. In previous years, it was fine to stay at home during winter, as we could add some reed catkins to keep warm. Now that we're busy traveling, how can we not withstand it? It wouldn't be worth it if you got sick from the cold." Lu Mingui thought that it was too late today, so she would go to the clothing store tomorrow to buy winter clothes for the whole family. On second thought, I could go to the clothing store, but I could also check out the vegetable market first. The farmer's market is more cost-effective. If you can buy a padded jacket and bring it over, that would be even better. If all else fails, just take the coat apart. If you take out the cotton stuffing and sew a new jacket, the secret won't be revealed. Once inside the White House, she first went to look at the cotton padded coat she had bought last time, hoping to see if she could take it apart and remove the cotton. But upon closer inspection, they discovered something else amiss. There was a small white strip of cloth inside the clothes with several lines of writing on it. I looked at all the terms like fabric and lining, but never saw the word cotton. They all had 4 words written on them: polyester fiber. She examined it several times, turning it over and over, and couldn't help but mutter to herself in doubt, "Where's the cotton? Isn't it sewn with cotton? Then why is it called a cotton padded jacket?" She wanted to cut it open, but couldn't bear to, so she simply went to ask Lu Yunxi what polyester fiber was. Lu Yunxi happened to be at Guanlin residence. Upon hearing this, she laughed and first explained what polyester fiber was. He added, "Polyester fiber is widely used in the market now, and it does have its advantages. It's cheap, durable, and easy to care for. Unlike wool or silk, it's not durable." Lu Mingui nodded, though she only vaguely understood. She heard Lu Yunxi ask her, "Why did you suddenly ask that?" Lu Mingui hesitated for a moment, but still didn't mention wanting to make cotton-padded clothes. She was afraid that if Lu Yunxi found out, he would take on all the responsibilities and do everything for her. I felt a little embarrassed to keep bothering her. So he said, "I was just asking out of curiosity, that's all." Lu Yunxi didn't ask any further questions, but instead asked, "There are still 2 weeks until the new year. What are your plans for spending it? You're all about to celebrate the new year." Lu Mingui blurted out, then realized and corrected herself, "Wow, it's almost the new year already, time really flies. The winter solstice hasn't arrived where they are yet." Lu Yunxi pretended not to hear and said, "I don't know if Xian and his sister will be able to come back then." He then tentatively asked, "If you're free, why don't you join us for New Year's Eve dinner? If it's inconvenient for you to eat at home, you can come over after you've eaten something there. Or we can eat earlier. Let's just have some fun together." She spoke earnestly and even came up with a reason for Lu Mingui to spend the new year alone. Lu Mingui hesitated for a moment, then nodded, "I'm a little unsure about the timing, and I'm afraid it will interfere with your New Year celebrations. If you arrive early, I'll cook for you." Lu Yunxi was immediately delighted. "You don't need to cook. I'll have someone come over and cook for you. By the way, would you like to eat here, or come to our house?" Lu Mingui pointed to the gate. "It's just a short walk away, let's eat here." "No, that's not what I meant," Lu Yunxi said with a smile. Go to my original home. You forgot. This house was just bought. Our family didn't originally live here. Lu Mingui was naturally curious about the outside world. So far, apart from the vegetable market and meat farm, she has only been to the furniture market once. So he nodded in agreement. Lu Yunxi was very happy. I'll come pick you up. Then, after agreeing on the terms, Lu Mingui took another opportunity to go to the market to buy some pork and the like. There aren't many steamed buns and flatbreads left. I'll buy some more meat buns this time. After buying the meat, I also bought some vegetables and chatted with Sister Yang for a while. She asked Sister Yang, why isn't there cotton stuffed inside your cotton padded coat? Sister Yang said, cotton padded clothes make me look fat and are heavy. Down jackets are much lighter and more convenient. Lu Mingui recalled trying on a down jacket last time and how lightweight it was. In the Ming Dynasty, wealthy families wore sable fur coats or silk quilts for warmth, while poor families wore hemp quilts or reed catkins. I've also heard of people using velvet to keep warm, but that's extremely rare. Moreover, starting with Emperor Taizu, the people were required to grow cotton, and cotton became widespread. Therefore, Lu Mingui felt that cotton padded clothes were warmer and more reassuring to wear. She said, if you ask me, cotton padded clothes are better, down jackets are too expensive. Down jackets are still expensive? Ms. Yang asked in surprise. That's the price now. If you're wearing a mink coat, that's really expensive, costing several thousand or even tens of thousands. This time it was Lu Mingui's turn to be surprised. They won't even let us catch pheasants, but they'll kill minks. Because Song Chengye was a hunter, she knew about sables, but there were no sables in Baoding Prefecture, so she had never seen one in person. Moreover, these mink coats are extremely expensive, and ordinary people cannot afford them. She thought that if pheasants, which are so common, are not allowed to be caught, then the rare mink is even less likely to be caught. Sister Yang curled her lip. They're all farmed, mink. Anything under 1,000 yuan is fake. Lu Mingui didn't care about these things, she was more concerned about cotton. If I want to make a cotton padded coat, is it possible to buy cotton? She was worried that there wouldn't be any cotton to sell here, given the huge difference between the two places. What if cotton wasn't popular here? Then I'll have to think of other ways. Unexpectedly, Sister Yang pointed to one end of the vegetable market and said, getting cotton is easy, isn't it? Go that way, there's a place that makes cotton quilts. You can definitely buy it from him.